DHS Secretary Mayorkas admitted that the current release rate for migrants caught crossing the border illegally is above 85%. It's above 85%. That's what he says privately while he's preening before the cameras and telling you, how dare you question the integrity and hard work and sacrifice of the men and women of ICE and CBP. And, of course, nobody's doing that. He's hiding behind them like the coward that he is, the sniveling coward that he is, hiding behind them. The good men and women, I'm with them, of border security.
Right. Yeah, how dare you question us? You're
not with them. And you're not with Brian Silvas, and you're not with law-abiding Americans, Mr. Former U.S. Attorney. Privately admitting the current release rate for migrants caught crossing the border illegally is above 85%. And what was proposed by Greg Abbott? I mean, simple things you could do right away, like force people to queue up at ports of entry. You will not be allowed to apply for asylum if you do not come through a port of entry, designated port of entry. Has Mayorkas proposed that?
Yeah,
no,
that's not a big ask.
And this doesn't even get into the other component parts that are included in H.R. 2, the measure that House Republicans passed in terms of policy changes. The Wall Street Journal is opining today about, opportunity to make progress on border security with this, holistic spend deal that the Biden administration is pushing, money for Ukraine, money for Israel, money for Taiwan, money for the border. The Wall Street Journal is dead wrong. That is not the opportunity here. The opportunity here is to continue to expose this fraud that the Biden administration is running, that people at the border know. And, of course, now that every state's become a border state because so many are sanctuary states and we've gotten a little assist from some southern governors, same deal. This is the opportunity to drive policy change, not make sure that the infield gets sprinkled with more monopoly money. Wall Street Journal editorial board is completely wrong in their assessment of this political/policy opportunity. To concede on the issue for some cash and a few more agents, is to concede the issue. Just to concede it. Forget about, give the Biden administration a political win. That's not what I'm saying. It's to concede the policy issue of advancing substantive changes that will improve security at the border. Wait till you hear what AMLO has proposed in exchange for helping Biden prop up his poll numbers and pull back some of those migrants moving through Mexico to the southern border. We'll pick it up there at 5:38.
But now let's head straight into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott. Good morning, Mike.
5:30 on AM 560. The Answer. Winter weather rolling through the Chicago area. We'll get an update on school closings in just a moment. Secretary of State Antony Blinken continues his Middle East shuttle diplomacy with Israeli officials today in Tel Aviv. It's all part of the U.S. effort, he says, to prevent the Israel-Hamas war from spreading further in the region.
To help Gaza stabilize and recover, to chart a political path forward for the Palestinians, and to work toward long-term peace.
It's Blinken's fourth trip to the Middle East since the Hamas terror attacks on Israel on October 7. Both United and Alaska Airlines found loose bolts during examination of its aircraft. NTSB investigator Clint Cruikshanks.
The exam to date has shown that the door, in fact, did translate upward. All 12 stops became disengaged, allowing it to blow out of the fuselage.
The inspections of its 737 MAX 9 fleets came after a door plug was blown out of an Alaska Airlines plane over the weekend. Former White House medical advisor Anthony Fauci expected to sit today for a second day of questioning from the House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus. A lunar lander mission is being scrapped after suffering a critical malfunction less than a day after launch. The Michigan Wolverines are college football playoff national champions, crushing Washington 34-13 in the title game. Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh on building on his family's legacy of championship titles.
With my dad, who won a national championship with Western Kentucky in 2002, and John Harbaugh, who won the Super Bowl 2012 season, 2013 Super Bowl. I get to sit at the big person's table now.
It's Michigan's second national title after going undefeated as well in 1997. National Weather Service says heavy wet snow is falling over much of the region today. 3 to 6 inches possible in the city and suburbs, 6 to 12 inches in the colder weather of the northwest suburbs. Several schools already closed today, some with e-learning. You need to check your local school website or look for reminds from your school on your phone for status updates. An investigation continues following a Chicago police officer being shot and badly hurt while responding to a smash-and-grab robbery in Chicago's Gold Coast neighborhood. Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling.
When officers arrived on scene, they encountered an individual who was armed with a handgun. The officers attempted to de-escalate by telling the subject to drop the gun. He did not. Shortly thereafter, there was an exchange of gunfire.
The officer and offending suspect were taken to the hospital. Alderman Brian Hopkins wants TIF special use district money applied to securing sidewalks with bollards in 3 months or less. Chicago police are searching for a man who robbed 2 people on the CTA Blue Line while armed with a machete. Authorities say the incidents happened December 30th on the Blue Line in the 500 block of South Kedzie Avenue. A Wilmette man faces child pornography charges. Cook County Sheriff's Office says investigators found Owen Taylor reportedly was in possession of multiple videos and photos of child pornography. A national teaching organization says the state of Illinois needs to improve its policies that promote better reading instruction. The National Council on Teacher Quality President Heather Pesky gave Illinois a weak reading rating.
Illinois doesn't require districts to select and use a high-quality reading curriculum. So that means that districts are on their own to choose what they'd like to use. And that means a lot of times districts in Illinois could be using curriculum that's not aligned with the research and that simply isn't as effective in teaching kids to read.
The report also says Illinois does not provide adequate professional learning for teachers on the science of reading. Bulls earned their second straight win following a 119-112 overtime victory over the Hornets in Charlotte. Kobe White with 27. Blackhawks take on Calgary tonight. 5:35 is our time, and a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dennis Prager sees a major divide.
A former president and the leading contender for the nomination for president of one of the two parties could not be on the ballot in the state of Colorado. This is a dividing line that is unbridgeable. It was a despicable, America-crushing decision by tyrants. They're just tyrants.
The Dennis Prager Show, weekdays at 11, right before Charlie Kirk at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
Urgent Camp Lejeune settlement message. On September 6th, the government announced it will soon begin providing fast, guaranteed settlements to Camp Lejeune Marines, families, and civilians. Awards will range between $100,000 and $550,000, with an option for higher amounts. If you or a loved one spent time at Camp Lejeune and suffered cancers of the bladder, liver, or kidneys, leukemia, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, Parkinson's, or kidney issues, you may qualify for compensation and could be paid within 60 days after accepting your settlement, with your VA benefits fully protected. You may be be entitled to a significant financial award for your Camp Lejeune claim, but you must act now. Call the James Harris Law Camp Lejeune helpline now to get the compensation you deserve. We're already fighting for thousands harmed by the water at Camp Lejeune. Call now or you may forever lose your right to be awarded a settlement between $100,000 and $550,000. For your free evaluation, call 800-299-7878. That's 800-299-7878. 800-299-7878.
It's Dr. David Kolbaba. With cold and flu season, now is the time to ensure you're building an effective immune system. Zinc is so critical for every function of your body, especially your immune defense. And there's no better way to check your zinc levels than our zinc tally test. First, we'll test you in our offices, and then you get to take your very own zinc tally test home with you, and once a week, watch your steady progress. Can't get to our offices for your first zinc tally test? No problem. We'll ship a kit to you. It's so fast and simple to use, with quick results in just seconds, with you not having to pay for those blood tests to check for zinc deficiencies, which most of us probably are deficient. So call our Health Quest radio hotline at 800-794-1855 to order yours today. And listen to Health Quest Radio with me, Dr. David Kolbaba, this Saturday morning at 11. Call 800-794-1855. That's 800-794-1855.
When you're in the market to buy or sell a home, commercial property, or even vacant land, let attorney Susan J. Kim step in. She's reliable, responsive, personable, and extremely thorough when helping you deal with an otherwise stressful transaction. Attorney Kim leads with her values and is committed to providing legal services with excellence. To contact Attorney Kim, visit sjkimlaw.com. That's sjkimlaw.com. Whether it's drafting agreements, negotiating contract terms, or closing on a property, attorney Susan J. Kim can do it all. Over 10 years of experience and her wealth of knowledge tackling complicated legal negotiations and breaking them down into a smooth, easy-to-understand process is what she does best. So let attorney Susan J. Kim step in. To schedule your legal consultation today, visit sjkimlaw.com. That's sjkimlaw.com or call 847-906-3166. Susan J. Kim, attorney at law, is a state of Illinois licensed real estate attorney.
Need to hire quality candidates fast? You need Indeed. Our video interview tool makes it easy and effortless to meet with candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
It's 5:39. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of the AM 560 store. T-shirts, hoodies, and more from your favorite AM 560 brands, including Proft, University. One major problem, the Reagan really stacking up this morning. A vehicle spin out reported eastbound right at the Veterans Toll Road. That's I-355. We've just checked in with the airports. We've got minor delays and cancellations so far. Call ahead for sure to Midway and O'Hare. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now, your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the QC Kinetics Weather Center. Mix of snow and rain today, accumulating anywhere from 3 to 6 inches and a high of 37. More snow overnight, dangerous travel in spots, and a low of 28. Light snow and 34 at O'Hare. Your next news update is at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We're talking about DHS Secretary Mayorkas. He, under threat of impeachment at present, visiting Eagle Pass, Texas yesterday to tell fairy tales about what is happening under his watch and the watch of the big guy, Mr. 10%. We find that America needs Metamucil, not remain in Mexico. That's according to Mayorkas, who says, we got a little problem with irregular migration.
A little backup on the I-90.
Yeah, it's nothing, a little bit more fiber in our diet can't help. So that's where it's at. with
Oh,
Mayorkas.
he's such a piece of work.
Now, the NBC News outfit, part of the Dem Com shop, had an interesting piece. Biden is asking for Mexican help to stop the record surge of migrants. Well, and the subhead, Biden needs Mexican help to fix a problem that's driving down his poll numbers. Well, that's the important thing.
Exactly. He's going to lose the election, I think, just on this issue alone. Well, no, combined with inflation, other things.
Well, here's the here's what AMLO wants. Who has who over a barrel here? You would think the United States would have Mexico over a barrel on this issue. Yeah,
they want more than $20 billion, Dan.
$20 billion to Latin America and Caribbean countries. Suspend the blockade of Cuba. Remove all sanctions against Venezuela.
Oh, now they've done it.
And here's the kicker.
I'm ready.
Grant at least 10 million Latinos living in the United States the right to remain and work legally.
So amnesty, okay?
10 million.
10 million Hispanics who've worked in the U.S. for at least 10 years. That's their list of demands.
Right. And so in exchange for that, I'm sorry, what is it that Obrador is willing to do? What is Biden willing to do? He's not willing to make a policy change. I mean, he makes a Remain in Mexico policy change. And what's Obrador going to do about it? They're not coming in. But instead, Obrador must believe they're so ideologically committed to open borders that he can make this sort of demand in exchange for what? Slowing the caravans moving up through Mexico to the border? How about that deal? How about the stones on López Obrador? Or maybe it's not stones. Maybe it's just a proper reading of this federal government. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. And all these were the same people, covering this, and Biden needs help from AMLO and lagging poll numbers, so on and so forth. These people, Mexico is going to pay for the wall. Mexico didn't pay for the wall. Mexico really stuck it. Really? Is that what happened? Who is sticking it to America? Is it AMLO? Is it Biden? AMLO got one over on Trump. That's the story when it comes to border security. Paul Ryan may have gotten one over on Trump when it comes to border security, but AMLO didn't. And here we are under Joe Biden. I mean, I want to say this again. This is what the Mexican president is demanding in exchange for some ill-defined assistance he's willing to give if these demands are met. $20 billion. End the blockade of Cuba. Remove all sanctions against Venezuela. And 10 million Hispanics living in the U.S., they stay and can work legally. Basically,
Work
you're
visas. Yep.
basically you're a U.S. citizen overnight because that's how you're going to be treated.
It's fascinating. Do you think
Wow.
Biden's going to do it?
No chance. I mean, it's funny because I mean,
may negotiate it down to 10 billion and 5 million visas.
No, you know what? It's almost like he does it without formally announcing a deal. I'm just, Maduro. Just trust me. We're not going to enforce the sanctions. You've seen what we've done with the mullahs in Tehran. We don't enforce the sanctions on them. Don't worry, we won't enforce the sanctions on you. Path to citizenship for 10 million, or the right to remain and work legally. What's the difference between doing it formally and doing it informally, which is what we've been doing under, obviously, this president, but we've been doing for a long time? $20 billion. I mean, through all the money that we give to all these global organizations, you can add it up and cobble together $20 billion. I don't, enforcing a blockade of Cuba. Again, that's something that you can relax without making announcements. So, I mean, my point is to say he can do all of this the way that he's done similar things, which is not making a policy declaration, not inking a particular deal, but just doing it quietly without fanfare so he doesn't have to take the political heat for capitulating to Mexico the way he's capitulated to Iran, for example. Right?
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You can text us. It is up and running at 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment.
Something else, too, just on this AMLO deal. Mary Anastasia O'Grady had a good piece in the Journal. Is AMLO blackmailing Biden?
Oh.
And she offers this example. Late last year, Mayorkas and Blinken went down to talk to AMLO about, hey, can you do your neighbor to the north a solid? A joint U.S.-Mexico communique was issued by the White House on December 28th. You know, they're all about root causes. Called Democratic Decline, one of the root causes of heavy migration flows at the border between the two countries. Well, Mexico's version of that omitted the phrase, democratic decline, meaning a small d democratic decline. Word has it that Mexico's foreign ministry threw a hissy fit when it saw the White House's assertion there's a connection between repression, think Caracas, Havana, Managua, and large waves of immigration. And so Mexico throws a hissy fit, as Mary Anastasia O'Grady writes, and then the White House strikes the words, so the amended communique matched the Mexican version that did not blame autocratic, repressive regimes in Venezuela and Cuba and Nicaragua for the heightened irregular migration. Really interesting. She writes, it would be nice to think this incident was but a small blip in an otherwise healthy relationship between two North American democracies. It was no such thing. Instead, it was the latest example of how the Biden administration bows to Mexican President AMLO on matters big and small. He has the upper hand with Biden because Mexico controls the migrant flow from its southern border with Guatemala to its northern border with the U.S. Biden needs Mexico's cooperation as he strives to preserve reckless U.S. immigration policy and still get reelected. Bingo. Nailed it. That's what's going on here, and AMLO knows it as well as we do. By the way, it's funny, too, this clip resurfaced. A different Joe Biden once upon a time. Once upon a time, the second time, Joe Biden ran for president in 2007. Here's what he had to say about the border.
No great nation can be in a position where they can't control their borders. It matters how you control your borders, not just for immigration, but it matters for drugs, terror, a whole range of other things. So that's the first sort of truism.
Really? You don't say, big guy. 2007 Joe Biden. But as we've said, we've told you about Joe Biden from the outset. Well, actually, even before. This was known when Joe Biden first ran for office first ran for president, I should say, in 88, and then in 07. But everybody had to be reminded of it in the 2020 cycle. He's a company man. Wherever the party is, that's where he'll be. And where the party is, open borders. So that's where he is. That 2007 Joe Biden is dead and buried. Jordan in Forest Park on Chicago's Morning Answer.
If you really want to get Mexico's attention on this, all you'd have to do is construct a Berlin military airlift scenario where these migrants come across the Texas border, they're put on military planes, and they're dropped off. How about Cancun? How about the southern border of Mexico? And if you started doing that, and then the Mexican government said, well, we can't do that, how about shutting off tourism to Mexico? Just blanket, no more tourist flights. Maybe you can still keep the the regular business sort of between the two countries. Shut that off, and believe me, Mexico will do something about the migrants.
Well, I don't disagree with you. Thanks for the call, Jordan. I mean, it's one of these discussions we have all the time. What should be done, what could be done, but the more important discussion is why won't it be done? We know it won't get done. Why won't it get done? Cui bono? Who benefits? Right?
Yeah, true. And I got to tell you, I'm watching CNN right now. Chinese becoming the fastest group crossing the border. That reporter, David Culver, that we featured earlier in the show, now he's doing a part about Chinese and how they're paying $20,000 per person, and they don't have to make the dangerous trek. They have a mule that takes them all the way to the border and then delivers their belongings later.
Yeah, probably.
Wow.
Sponsored by the Chinese Communist Party, I'm sure, in part.
31,000 in 2023 for Chinese nationals.
And we talked about it.
Men.
We talked about it yesterday. Military-age men, number one. Yep. Number two, the reform, the policy change, where there's policy changes being made, was to shorten the questionnaire for Chi-Com. Well, I shouldn't say they're all communists, but for Chinese migrants, to shorten the questionnaire from 40 questions to 5 because there's so many, we need to process them faster. And, of course, you've got analysts on immigration policy at the RAND Corporation elsewhere saying, well, if you just ask for name, rank, and serial number, you're not going to necessarily have the information you need to make a qualified judgment on whether or not that particular individual should be granted asylum. But, again, well, what does that matter? They're coming in anyway. We're letting them in anyway, so why even go through the formality of a 40-question survey?
This is nothing more. This is an invasion. And Biden is going to lose the shirt off his back from this, which I hope he does.
Well,
we're never going to get our country back if we keep this up. I mean, 300,000 in December, 270,000 in November, and it's winter time. Can you imagine the summer's going to and the spring is going to be crazy?
Well, I guess it's a race against the clock, and the Democrats, Socialists, this Open Borders Party, is betting that they'll be first past the post. Let me give you an example. I mean, for those who think, that the idea that there's an effort to replace Americans with non-Americans and so on and so forth, that's all racist and so on. Okay. Here's New York Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from Brooklyn.
I'm from Brooklyn, New York. We have a diaspora that can absorb a significant number of these migrants. And when I hear colleagues talk about, the doors of the inn being closed, no room in the inn, I'm saying, I need more people in my district, but just for redistricting purposes. And those members could clearly fit here.
Oh. Yvette, you're not supposed to say that out loud.
Oh, my God.
Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Long day. Time to charge up.
Hey, just like my delivery truck.
Even kids know to keep business moving forward, it's time to make the switch to electric vehicles. Whether you have one van or a whole fleet of trucks, resources are available to help you make the changes that make sense.
Let's go.
Beep, beep.
Go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
Are you ready for an adventure of a lifetime? Journey with me, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, on the Patriots Alaska cruise this summer. It's an incredible opportunity to engage with me and other like-minded patriots on an epic 7-day cruise over 4th of July weekend. Witness the untouched wilderness of Alaska while discussing America's future. What could be better? Join me from June 29th to July 6th. Call 855-565-5519 or reserve online. PatriotsAlaskaCruise.com.
Well, I've been taking it for some time. We saw the ad, and we thought we would give it a try. And I noticed after the first month, we just felt better. I told my doctor, too, and she said, this sounds like a really good product for you to be taking. We plan to take it for life.
I ran this by my doctor
I always run it by her, everything I take, and I told her I've been taking this for a while. Is this okay to take? She goes, oh, this is wonderful for you to take. Keep taking it. She goes, I approve this. This is very good. So she said, yes, this is one thing you can take that's very good. I'm not going to stop taking out into nature.
Step into the new year with a new you. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
This is Seth Leibson of 960thepatriot.com for townhall.com. It needs saying again. The world is a dangerous place. The question is whether we'll make it more dangerous or less by what we do and don't, by who we support or don't, and when and how. For 45 years, Iran has been at war against the United States, taking American hostages, killing Americans, targeting allies, directly and via proxies. Its most lethal proxy is Hezbollah, whose manifesto makes it clear America is their number one target. And now Israel, our ally, is called upon to fight Hezbollah. We'd better be clear where we are on this front, too. We should not be sleepwalking as danger is exploding everywhere, not just the Middle East. This very moment is, as Paul Harvey once said, a testing time. One can fail tests. In foreign policy, that's how world wars start. Right now, our grade is not good. We'd better wake up from our lethal slumber and fix it. I'm Seth Leibson.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. You're smart, you're busy, and don't have time to waste on the mainstream media cycle. Salem News Channel breaks that cycle. Topics that matter from hosts worth watching. Dinesh D'Souza, Andrew Wilkow, Brandon Tatum, and more. Open debate and free speech you won't find anywhere else. Salem News Channel. Not like the other guys. Watch anytime on any screen. Free 24/7. Find everything you need to know at snc.tv. That's snc.tv.
Wealth Health Radio. The biggest fears that people have is, do I have enough money to retire?
Retirement doesn't have to be complicated.
To make sure that you're going through retirement with confidence.
Learn principles of income planning.
There's a lot of different facets that you need to take into consideration when you're retiring.
Tune into Wealth Health Radio with Joe Murphy, noon to 1 p.m. Sundays on AM 560, The Answer. AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 6:06, House Speaker Mike Johnson is accused of being a 2020 election denier by Face the Nation's Margaret Brennan. Oh, heavens. We'll have the Heritage Foundation's Hans von Spakowski adjudicate that matter for us at 6:06.
And looky here, President Biden claims to have started the civil rights movement. We'll explain, but now let's head into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
A winter storm hitting the Chicago area and investigating a police officer shot in the Gold Coast. Another win for the Bulls. And WIND, Chicago News Time, 6.
Former President Trump goes back to court. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The day after President Biden called his potential 2024 rematch rival a loser, saying in a speech condemning white supremacy in South Carolina. MAGA Republicans are trying to steal history, calling the Capitol riot a peaceful protest.
His actions were among the worst derelictions of duty by any president in American history.
Now, the former president will be in an appeals court, claiming he has immunity from actions he took while in the White House. And he posted this on Truth Social.
If I don't get immunity, then crooked Joe Biden doesn't get immunity. And with the border invasion and Afghanistan surrender alone, not to mention the millions of dollars that went into his pockets with money from foreign countries, Joe would be ripe for indictment.
Fox's Alexandria Hoff. All this ahead of a March Trump trial on election-related federal charges.
Now, the government's argument, it's a bit more cut and dry. It's that if absolute immunity is granted, it sets a dangerous standard that would simply allow for presidents to commit crimes.
At a Fox News Channel town hall last night in Iowa, Nikki Haley said she can defeat the former president in the Republican race and wants attempts to disqualify him to fail.
We can't have others saying, I don't think he should be on the ballot. I think Americans can
decide on their own whether they want him to be on the ballot or not.
6 days before the Iowa caucuses, Ron DeSantis has a Fox Town Hall tonight. There's a Trump Fox Town Hall tomorrow. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's in Israel as the war rages against Hamas.
Meeting with Israel's war cabinet, the families of the hostages held inside Gaza, in addition to a variety of Israeli leadership. All of this to discuss two things: the day after for the war in Gaza and how to avoid a larger regional conflict with Lebanon.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Israel. Both United and Alaska Airlines have found issues with more door plugs on grounded Boeing jets days after the one that blew off an Alaska flight, leaving a gaping hole. They're celebrating in Michigan.
Hail, hail, Michigan. They are the champions of college football.
The final call on ESPN after Michigan beat Washington for the title. America's listening to Fox News.
34 degrees at 6:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. A winter storm hitting the Chicago area today. National Weather Service says for the morning at least, heavy wet snow is falling. 3 to 6 inches is possible. There are several schools already closed, some with e-learning today. So check your local school website or look for reminds from your school on your phone for status updates. An investigation is underway following a Chicago police officer being shot and badly hurt while responding to a smash-and-grab robbery in Chicago's Gold Coast. Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling.
Shortly after being struck by gunfire, other officers arrived on scene. They applied a tourniquet to the officer. Those officers also applied life-saving techniques to the subject who was struck.
Alderman Brian Hopkins now wants special TIF use district money applied to securing sidewalks with bollards in 3 months or less.
And our concern is some of these bricks and mortar retailers are just going to give up and decide it's not worth it to them to have a presence like this. We don't want that to happen because we need the tax revenue that this retail district generates.
Retailers are backing the improved security features. A woman pleading guilty to murder for helping her mother brutally kill a pregnant Chicago teen in 2019 and steal the baby from her womb. Desiree Figueroa and her mother Clarissa are accused of strangling 19-year-old Marlon Ochoa Lopez and cutting her baby boy from her after the girl was lured to their Southwest Side home to exchange baby clothes. Desiree must testify against her mother in an upcoming trial. Desiree Figueroa's boyfriend is already serving time in prison for his role in the brutal murder and assault. Professionally last night, Bulls earned their second straight win following a 119-112 overtime victory over the Hornets in Charlotte. Kobe White with 27. Blackhawks try to get a winning streak going when they host Edmonton at the UC later tonight. And after cleaning out lockers at Hallis Hall, the Bears are locking down some of their practice squad players to off-season roster spots, team signing 10 players to future contracts yesterday. The news, a service of Salem Surround, local digital marketing agency. Go to surroundchicago.com today. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka knows where the hate is coming from.
Despite the fringe elements, the institution, whether it's the president of Harvard or whether it's, the Democrats walking down with the LGBT for Hamas, the institutionalized Jew hatred is coming almost exclusively from the left in the West.
America First with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
At Consumer Cellular, you get the same exact coverage as the largest carriers, but for up to half the cost. Same thing, up to half the cost. Up to half the cost for the same thing. 50% the money for 100% the same thing. I hope I'm making myself clear. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Half the cost savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single-line 5GB data plan with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single-line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plan offered by T-Mobile and Verizon May 2023.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Long day. Time to charge up.
Hey, just like my delivery truck.
Even kids know to keep business moving forward, it's time to make the switch to electric vehicles. Whether you have one van or a whole fleet of trucks, resources are available to help you make the changes that make sense.
Let's go.
Beep, beep.
Go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
Lots of channels, nothing to watch, especially if you're looking outside of big corporate control. It's time to interrupt your regularly scheduled programs with something worth watching. The new Salem News Channel. Straightforward, unfiltered, in-depth insight and analysis from the greatest collection of conservative minds, all in one place. SNC is home to Dennis Prager, Mike Gallagher, Sebastian Gorka, and more. Watch anytime on any screen. Free 24/7. Find what you're looking for at snc.tv.
6:07 on AM 560. The Answer. Let's check the roads in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center. Before we get exactly to the roads, want to tell you that some colleges are weighing in on closing today and e-learning. North Central College in Naperville closed today. They'll be e-learning. Elgin Community College, Waubonsee Community College, Joliet Junior College, all closed today. Benedictine University and Lyle delayed. There will be e-learning at Joliet Junior College today. On the roads, right now we're seeing the Eisenhower getting the worst of the snow and blow. 33 from 390 into the old post office. The Stevenson jamming up already between Pulaski and the Dan Ryan. 25 minutes from the Tri-State into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the QC Kinetics Weather Center and Steve Williams.
Winter weather advisory this morning. Snow and rain, 1 to 2 inches. A slippery commute, high today 37. Wet snow tonight, 1 to 3 inches, low 29. Clouds and breezy for tomorrow, the high 31. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
At 6:08, it's time to call Permaseal, 800-421-SEAL. And time to check those temperatures. Light snow 34 at O'Hare, snow and 33 in Aurora, snow and 34 in Wheeling, and light rain in Romeoville, and 35. Your next news update is at 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. You know they should got to host the Golden Globes instead of that stand-up comedian that they tapped.
He was awful. I'm a nerd and I watched the Golden Globes, yes. And he was, I mean, he barely was on because they changed their format this year. But when he was on, it was just painful.
Yeah.
He made a Taylor Swift joke that was not funny at all and fell flat.
Yeah, okay. Well, so who should have actually hosted the Golden Globes is a funny lady. She happens to host Face the Nation. She's Margaret Brennan. I mean, she had me in stitches over the weekend when she was interviewing House Speaker Mike Johnson. Take a listen. And wait for the punchline.
Okay, I will.
I mean, it's a zinger.
Back in 2021, you were the lawmaker who circulated the legal brief known as the Texas Amicus Brief, challenging the 2020 election outcome in a number of states, which by CBS editorial standards makes you an election denier.
That's great.
CBS legal standards.
CBS editorial standards.
Yeah, oh, sorry. You are an election denier. You have now been dubbed an election denier.
The exacting journalistic standards of CBS demand that Mike Johnson be forever labeled an election denier. Great. All right, now let's now that we got the funny out of the way, let's hear it again. You get one more bite at it, and then hear what Speaker Johnson has to say in response. And I get it. He did a great job containing his laughter.
Back in 2021, you were the lawmaker who circulated the legal brief known as the Texas amicus brief, challenging the 2020 election outcome in a number of states, which by CBS editorial standards makes you an election denier.
That's nonsense.
Well, can I get you on the record on that?
I've always been consistent on the record. Did you read the brief? Did you get a chance to read what we filed with the Supreme Court?
Well, I have read extensively some criticisms of that.
You read commentary about the brief, but not what we submitted to the court.
But you recognize that President Biden won the 2020 election. Can you just put that aside?
President Biden was certified as the winner of the election. He took the oath of office. He's been the president for 3 years. The argument that we presented to the court, which was our only avenue to do so, was that the Constitution was clearly violated in the 2020 election. It's Article 2, Section 1, and anyone can Google it and read it for themselves. The system by which you choose electors to elect the president of the United States must be done by the individual states, and the system must be ratified by the state legislatures. That is plain language out of the Constitution.
Have issues with the validity of the 2020 election.
The Constitution was violated in the run-up to the 2020 election.
Look, I don't need to read Article 2, Section 1. I've read extensive criticisms of Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution as well. I mean, Margaret Brennan is comical. Mike Johnson was much more charitable with her than he should have been. And then the follow-up question, so you still have issues. Margaret, see if you can follow this train of thought. I filed an amicus brief making an argument about the unconstitutional activities that occurred in the 2020 election. Since that was not remedied, I retain that belief that was memorialized in the filing I made. Is that no? I don't believe what I filed anymore. How does that make any sense? It's just so difficult. Margaret Brennan is such a good example of why it is. For more on this and other matters surrounding free and fair elections, Hans von Spakovsky joins us, senior legal fellow for the Heritage Foundation, former FEC commissioner, former lawyer for the Department of Justice as well, and author of Our Broken Elections, How the Left Changed the Way You Vote. Hans, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. And notice that what came through, which was that she never actually read the amicus brief. She never actually read the complaint.
I read she read the talking points opposing what was advanced by Speaker Johnson in the state of Texas. She read the criticism of it so she could repeat the criticism of it. She doesn't have to read the underlying filing and make her own judgment. She just needs the talking points to criticize it and call people election deniers who don't.
Right. And that's so typical of the news media. Look, I've been dealing with reporters like her for a very long time now about election issues, especially election integrity issues. And they're not only ignorant of it, they don't want to hear the real story on so many of these issues because, as you say, they get talking points from the left and they just repeat them. I've run into that constantly.
Well, I mean, and by the way, just to close the loop on this aspect of our discussion about free and fair elections, the argument that Mike Johnson was advancing, where he had to explain a couple of times without getting into detail that the Constitution had been violated, and this was the argument that he advanced in the amicus brief. Can you just refresh our recollections to, as part of the framing for 2024?
Well, what he was arguing, what Texas was arguing, was that, look, the complaint that was filed by Texas is one of the best I've ever seen written. And they went through all the violations that occurred of election laws in a number of states. I mean, just to give you one example, remember in Pennsylvania, absentee ballots by state law were due by the end of Election Day. And yet election officials there in the executive branch just said, oh, you know what? We're just going to ignore that state deadline, and we'll continue to accept and count absentee ballots that come in after Election Day. I mean, that's a clear violation of the law and was a violation of the Constitution, which says you have to set out the rules of the election ahead of time, and you've got to stick to them. But that was just one of many examples.
Well, do you think we're going to have a fair and honest election in 2024?
Well, I will tell you that that we're in better shape in a lot of places. But look, I hate to tell you this, but it depends on what state you're in.
Okay.
Many states, mostly red states, actually improved their election process over the last 3 years. They passed big reform packages. Georgia, as you recall, was one of them. In fact, remember that the reform package in Georgia upset Joe Biden so much that he went down there and gave this big speech about how it was Jim Crow 2.0. And what was he complaining about? The fact that, for example, Georgia extended its voter ID law to cover absentee ballot, which, as you know, so many people use now. But look, the other states not only haven't improved things, some states have made things worse. Nevada is a good example of that. California is a good example of that, unfortunately. So, again, it's going to depend on where you are.
As I'm looking at the election integrity scorecard at the Heritage Foundation, you can get at their website, heritage.org. The only swing state I see that I guess would be of concern based on the Heritage Foundation scoring is the one you just mentioned, Nevada. With respect to swing states, the others seem to be pretty solid or have improved significantly, including, and this is worth mentioning since it was, the critical swing state, Georgia, which is in the top 5. So, I mean, this is the question you get and we get too, which is, but even if he wins, even if Trump wins, will he really win? What's going to happen? And we always have the same conversation. Well, it's a state and local matter, so it varies state to state. But what we do see, and I think the Heritage Scorecard backs us up, is that the states that matter have made some improvements, although I think there's still a lot of concern about the state of Arizona because of Maricopa County, too.
Well, yeah, no, I think you summarized it. You summarized it better than I can. And look, even in Pennsylvania, they had a real problem there. The legislature kept passing reforms. The Democratic governor kept rejecting them. But you'll recall that one of the big factors in the 2020 election were Zuckbucks, right? Mark Zuckerberg, remember, gave $450 million that was then granted to big urban city election offices like Philadelphia. And in essence, they used those government offices to do get-out-the-vote campaigns for Democrats. Pennsylvania, the one bill they got passed that the governor finally signed was a ban on those kind of private donations by political partisans to local election offices, and that's a good thing.
Right, and so somebody made note of this the other day. Let's talk about Maricopa County, Arizona, for example, just to use it as a case study. In Argentina, they counted 27 million paper ballots in 6 hours. For the presidential election that Milei won. In Maricopa County, we have trouble getting results within a week. So if you're the Republican nominee or the chairman of the RNC, what do you do in a place like Maricopa County or Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, to ensure that there is ballot integrity and that if there are things that go awry, that you have it well documented and ready to take to court post haste? I mean, where you actually have a team and a strategy, which isn't what we saw from Team Trump in 2020. What would you do, say, in Maricopa County if you were directing traffic there?
You need to have your lawsuits prepared ahead of time, and you don't file them after the election. You file them during the election if, for example, your observers start calling you and saying, the voting machines in these precincts quit printing out ballots. As you'll recall, that happened. That happened in the election there. You have to be ready these days, unfortunately, and I hate to say this, to be in court immediately on Election Day, and these days, because so much happens before Election Day, there's so much early voting, you've got to be ready to go to court before Election Day when election officials aren't complying with the laws and regulations, or when, for example, the voting equipment is malfunctioning, which, as you know, happened in Maricopa County.
So this means you get into court in real time and you get an injunction to stop everything until, right? Is this what you're saying?
Yes, and to fix problems as they are occurring. You can't wait till after the election, which is the way things used to be done.
Let's talk about what's happening here in Illinois. A group of Illinois voters filed paperwork to keep Trump off the ballot.
Yeah, no, I saw that, and I saw that the state election board is going to assign an administrative officer to conduct a hearing on it. So imagine this. A bureaucrat, a state bureaucrat, is going to decide who should be the presidential candidates on the ballot in Illinois. I mean, the whole concept is just, it's not just crazy, but it is shocking that anyone would think that the state election board or a administrative hearing officer has the right to disenfranchise the millions of registered voters in the state and take away from them the right to make the choice of who they think should be the Republican candidate for president.
Do you have any doubt that the Supreme Court, once it takes up the Colorado case next month, will end this business that's occurring in Colorado, in Maine, and is being attempted in Illinois and elsewhere? Do you have any doubt that they will compel Colorado to keep Trump's name on the ballot?
Well, one can never say anything with certainty, but I think it is highly, highly probable, based on the constitutional history of the 14th Amendment, that they are going to overturn what Colorado did, and that in itself will overturn what the Maine Secretary of State did and stop all of these other efforts like the one going on in Illinois in their tracks, and that'll be the end of the effort to try to get Trump off the ballot.
What's taking so long? I mean, when do you think the Supreme Court is going to make their ruling?
Actually, they're acting very quickly. I mean, look, the Trump campaign filed its request for an appeal on January 3rd. Only 2 days later, January 5th, the Supreme Court issued an order saying, we're taking up the case. They gave each side about 10 days to file their briefs, and they're holding oral arguments on February 8th, just about a month. But for the Supreme Court, that's acting very fast.
Yeah, they appreciate what's happening here and the sense of urgency.
Just impatient in the caucuses, or next Monday.
Hans von Spakovsky. Go ahead, Hans. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say they know they have to move fast because all these elections are coming up very quickly.
Hans von Spakovsky, senior legal fellow for the Heritage Foundation, former FEC commissioner, former lawyer for DOJ, and author of the book Our Broken Elections: How the Left Changed the Way You Vote. Hans, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
Right now is a really good time to get your student loans under control. There are so many people that we talk to every day who tell us that they just feel so much anxiety and overwhelmed by their student loans. But once they pick up that phone and call us, and we're able to give them a plan and a strategy that may lower their payment by hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars, and may actually get their loans forgiven. The point is just to give people some clarity and control over their situation so that they know that whatever the payment is, whatever the plan is, there actually is a plan, and that plan is going to save them the most amount of money. I'm Ray Kaplan, and I can help you get debt-free, stress-free. Give us a call at 312-294-8989 or visit us at financialrelief.com.
Oh, in this crazy world, it's hard because we can't control a lot of things. People invading our country, things like that, crime. But what you can control is what you put in your body. And I feel good that I'm doing something for myself and taking balance of nature. What it is fruits and vegetables in a capsule. The fruits and vegetables are powdered after an advanced vacuum cold process, which stabilizes the maximum nutrient content. 31 whole fruits and vegetables, real food, real science, real nutrition. There's a wide variety of fruits and vegetables in those bad boys, and people who take them swear by them because we're not getting enough fruits and veggies on our own. Here's the number to call, 800-246-8751. That's 800-246-8751. Use discount code Chicago. First-timers get free shipping, 35% off, and a bottle of fiber and spice that our good friend John Anthony loves to take every morning. He puts that in his smoothie, okay? I'm not stalking him, but I just know that that's his routine. 800-246-8751 or online at balanceofnature.com. Discount code Chicago.
This is Seth Leibson of 960thepatriot.com for townhall.com. It needs saying again. The world is a dangerous place. The question is whether we'll make it more dangerous or less by what we do and don't, by who we support or don't, and when and how. For 45 years, Iran has been at war against the United States, taking American hostages, killing Americans, targeting allies, directly and via proxies. Its most lethal proxy is Hezbollah, whose manifesto makes it clear America is their number one target. And now Israel, our ally, is called upon to fight Hezbollah. We'd better be clear where we are on this front, too. We should not be sleepwalking as danger is exploding everywhere, not just the Middle East. This very moment is, as Paul Harvey once said, a testing time. One can fail tests. In foreign policy, that's how world wars start. Right now, our grade is not good. We'd better wake up from our lethal slumber and fix it. I'm Seth Leibson.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu.
Chronic pain, it can ruin your marriage, bring on depression. It's no way to live. But now there's a non-surgical way to get rid of that hip, back, and joint pain. It's called QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in regenerative non-surgical pain relief. Did you know that your body has what it needs to restore and repair that damaged joint tissue? And QC Kinetics can make it happen. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. Hundreds of board-certified QC Kinetic providers have treated tens of thousands of satisfied patients all over America. People like you and me with back pain, hip pain, any pain associated with arthritis or an injury. Folks, this is not a Band-Aid. This is a revolutionary treatment that can get you moving again. Get your life back. And listen, it's non-surgical. So fight back against the pain. Take the first step now. Call QC Kinetics. This is the number, 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Amy, speaking about the Golden Globes, as suggested that Face the Nation host Margaret Brennan would have been a better choice than that stand-up comedian they had. I didn't watch it, of course, because I don't watch self-congratulatory award shows.
It's so bad.
But I did catch in the Twitterverse Jim Gaffigan, an actual stand-up comedian, and what he had to say. I thought this was, almost Ricky Gervais quality here from Jim Gaffigan. You didn't expect this coming from him.
Prime time, too.
You thought you'd maybe get a Hot Pockets joke or something, but no. The
Golden Globes. I mean, I can't even believe I'm in the entertainment industry. I can't. It's so unlikely. I'm from a small town in Indiana. I'm not a pedophile.
He stuck it to him because they had the category for best comedian.
There was a little bit of nervous applause in that audience. Golly, I wonder why.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 6:36, Michelle Obama's terrified about what could happen in the next election. She must have been listening to Mr. 10%'s speech in Charleston. 6:36.
Hot or not, too. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
34 degrees. Snow has transitioned into rain in some areas across the Chicago area at 6:30. Gabrielle Atoll has been named France's youngest ever prime minister this morning, as President Emmanuel Macron seeks a fresh start for the rest of his term amid growing political confidence in his leadership, and that is at crisis levels, and pressure from farmers from the center and right-leaning politicians. As tall as 34, his predecessor, Elizabeth Bourne, was forced to resign on Monday. Republican Congressman Matt Rosendale of Montana plans to introduce one or more articles of impeachment for high crimes and misdemeanors against Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin today. GOP presidential candidate Nikki Haley had this to say during a Fox News town hall last night.
I think Biden should be fired. This is unbelievable that we have a situation like this.
It comes as Austin is facing much criticism over his lack of transparency when his hospitalization went unreported. Former White House medical advisor Anthony Fauci is expected to sit for a second day of questioning today from the House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus. Fort Worth, Texas Fire Department investigating the cause of an explosion at a downtown hotel on Monday. Fire Department spokesman Craig Trajic says the cause may be a gas leak.
We have been working in collaboration with the ATF, the FBI, with our arson and bomb division as well.
There were reports of a strong smell of gas in the area before the explosion blew a large hole in the lower part of the building, trapping many victims in the basement.
We did extract several people from the basement that weren't able to get out on their own at that point in time.
At least 21 were injured, with a dozen hospitalized. The opening bell rings this morning on Wall Street after stocks closed a little higher to begin the new week. All three major averages posting gains despite a sell-off in Boeing shares weighed down on sentiment in early trading. Winter storm hitting the Chicago area today. Heavy wet snow continues to fall. Several schools and colleges already closed or going to e-learning, especially in the hardest-hit northwest suburbs. Check your local school website or look for reminds from your school on your phone for status updates. An investigation continues following a Chicago police officer being shot and badly hurt responding to a smash-and-grab robbery in Chicago's Gold Coast neighborhood. Chicago police are searching for a man who robbed two people on the CTA Blue Line while armed with a machete. It happened last December on the Blue Line near Kedzie. The U.S. Supreme Court denying an Illinois lawmaker's request to review Illinois' High Court ruling that upheld the state's assault weapons ban. The denial of State Representative Dan Calkins' request essentially closes the door on his narrow legal challenge to the law. Several other separate federal lawsuits continue. In fact, a scheduling conference in the Southern District of Illinois in federal court is set for Friday. Michigan Wolverines are college football playoff national champions, crushing Washington 34-13 in the title game. Last night, the Bulls ended up on the winning end of a 119-112 overtime score over the Hornets in Charlotte. The news service of Dan and Amy 24/7. Around the clock all day, every day. Listen now, Dan and Amy 247.com. A check of traffic and weather's on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher looks ahead at 2024.
Are you ready? Are you buckled in? Are you bracing yourself? We're going to need each other. We're sort of in this split between establishment Republicans and Republicans who have pivoted into a more populist, America First outlook. And that, to me, is what the whole year is going to be about.
The Mike Gallagher Show. Weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
120 Life, the natural juice drink that helps lower your blood pressure in just 2 weeks or your money back. Here's another happy customer.
Hi, everybody. This is Mark from San Diego. I just wanted to give a little shout out to 120 Life and tell them how great I think the product is. I've been drinking it for almost 3 years, and it's really helped me with my blood pressure, my overall heart health, and the amount of energy I have and feeling good. I haven't even caught a cold in over 3 years, all through COVID. It's been a great product. I'm going to continue to drink it, and I recommend it for everybody. Give it a shot, and I think you'll love it.
Lower your blood pressure naturally in just 2 weeks or your money back guaranteed. Order now at 120life.com. That's 120life.com. Order the 2-week trial pack and use coupon code NEWYEAR to save 20%. The natural solution to high blood pressure. Visit 120life.com and use coupon code NEWYEAR at checkout to save 20%. Hurry, offer ends January 31st.
What does it feel like to file with TaxSlayer and get your guaranteed maximum refund? It feels like the last level of a video game, facing off against the final boss who stands between you and your refund.
All your refund has belonged to me.
Using the power of TaxSlayer like a secret power-up he doesn't see coming.
Only the most tax-confident can defeat me.
Throwing your laptop at his video game face and watching him crumble into a giant pile of shiny coin tax refunds.
Oh, not fair. You use TaxSlayer.
Start for free and get your guaranteed maximum refund. TaxSlayer. File fearlessly.
The Fed's new FedNow system is all about surveillance and control. Secure your assets today with something Washington cannot manipulate. Hi, Stephen K. Bannon, and I recommend diversifying your retirement into a physical gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. To learn more, get a free info kit by texting the word safeguard to 989898. Do this right now. Text Safeguard to the number 989898 and get a free info kit from Birch Gold. There's no obligation or purchase required.
Message and data rates may apply.
Need to hire quality candidates fast? You need Indeed. Our video interview tool makes it easy and effortless to meet with candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
37, and let's check the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. The service of Staples stores. Staples Print Big Sale means the more you print, the more you save. Get $20 off your print purchase of 100 or more, $50 off your print purchase of 200 or more, and $100 off your print purchase of 300 or more. See Staples.com, save more at Staples. 8094 reports an accident this morning westbound at Torrance. I-80 an accident. Left lane block eastbound at US 30. Route 53 an accident on the entrance ramp. It's on the southbound side, westbound from Euclid Avenue. I-57 an accident, car into the wall at 127. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Let's get the latest from the QC Kinetics Weather Center. Seeing some rain move into the area on top of the snow. High 37 with anywhere from 1 to 3 inches in the city and suburbs, 3 to 6 inches in the northwest suburbs. Add on another 1 inch of snow later tonight, 3 inches out in the suburbs, and a low of 28. Currently, light snow 34 at O'Hare, light rain in Morris and Romeoville, 35 along the lakefront. Your next news update is at 7. Continuous news coverage at 560theanswer.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Michelle Obama. Hot. Woo! She sat down for a podcast interview with Jay Shetty, who was life coach and a founder of his tea company that I guess has been rather successful. He wrote a book called The Purpose-Driven Entrepreneur. So maybe Michelle Obama needs a little direction, a little life coaching. Anyway, the conversation turned to, sort of the prosaic, what keeps you up at night questions. And this is what Michelle Obama said keeps her up at night, probably saying this right after hearing the big guy at Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston talking about Trump and his voters. But anyway, here's Michelle.
What's going to happen in this next election? I am terrified about what could possibly happen because our leaders matter. Who we select, who speaks for us, who holds that bully pulpit it affects us in ways that sometimes I think people take for granted. The fact that people think that government, does it really even do anything? And I'm like, oh my God, does government do everything for us? And we cannot take this democracy for granted. And sometimes I worry that we do. Those are the things that keep me up.
By the way, this podcast interview and that clip that's making the rounds, no, Jesse Waters, just stay in your bro lane with your, stay doing your bits where you have tarot card readers and clairvoyants come on the show. Goof. I don't understand. I don't understand the popularity. This is not Michelle Obama waiting in the wings. This is not Michelle Obama positioning herself to replace Joe Biden. Just control yourselves.
Well, people have been saying that. Even somebody on this show in our family said, "Oh, she's going to run for Senate in California." No, she's not. She can't stand the White House. She can't stand politics.
So anyway, so if we could just train our attention for a second. All these cookie trays out there. Anyway. So that's what terrifies Michelle Obama. I did love the reference to government does everything for us. Such an interesting juxtaposition. In one breath, government does everything for us. In the next breath, we need to protect our democracy. Government by, for, and of. Yeah, right. Well, again, these are frightening times. And Joe Biden was telling ghost stories at that church in Charleston where that horrific massacre occurred several years back.
Yeah, 2015. It's now 2024. And 9 black parishioners were killed by a white supremacist. So he goes there and talks about Trump to try and associate Trump with white supremacy.
Well,
we know what you're doing, Biden.
Well, actually, he spent a lot of time not even bothering with that tired old connection. It was largely a rinse and repeat from Friday at Valley Forge. It was J6, the J6 mob. And listen very closely because, again, it's not Trump. It's Trump and you, the Trump voter. You're a scapegoat, too.
We saw something on January 6th we'd never seen before, even during the Civil War. Insurrectionists waving Confederate flags inside the halls of Congress built by enslaved Americans. A mob attacked and called black officers, black veterans, defending the nation those vile of racist names. And yet, an extreme movement of America, the MAGA Republicans, led by a defeated president, is trying to steal history now. They tried to steal an election, now they're trying to steal history, telling us that violent mob was, and I quote, a peaceful protest. That insurrection, those insurrectionists were, these are his words, patriots. That there was, quote, a lot of love that day. In fact, the rest of the nation and the world saw a lot of hate and violence. For hours, the defeated former president sat in the private dining room off of the Oval Office and did nothing, absolutely nothing. His actions were among the worst derelictions of duty by any president in American history. An attempt.
He did not do nothing. He did tweet out, go home. It's over. Please go home. But then Twitter took that down.
It's good that Joe Biden was in Charleston. It's appropriate, I should say, and invoking the Civil War, since that's where it started. There at Fort Sumter, and
wasn't he there for it too?
Yeah, right. And it seems like he's angling to start another one. Yeah. All the talk of unity has dissipated. Have you noticed?
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You could also reach us on our hot text line at 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment.
And that J6 mob, you fold in, you start with J6, and then you fold everything into it. That J6 mob, those insurrectionists, well, then after January 6th, after they laid siege on the Capitol and almost toppled our democracy. Well, then they went on to do other horrific things. And there, but for the grace of Biden, they might have done more damage than they did.
The lies that led to January 6th are part of a broader attack on the truth of America today that we all have seen before. The same movement that throughout the mob of the United States Capitol isn't just trying to rewrite history, January 6th, they're trying to determine to erase history and your future. Banning books, denying your right to vote and have it counted, destroying diversity, equality, inclusion all across America, harboring hate and replacing hope with anger and resentment and dangerous view of America.
Who's being denied the right to vote?
It's diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, please use the proper nomenclature there, Mr. President, not equality. Why not? Well, why not say that there's a MAGA mob, there's a J6 mob of MAGA extremists who are depriving people of the right to vote? Oh, why not say it? It's kitchen sink time. Ron, Southside.
Hey, Dan and Amy. First of all, I do not care what keeps Michelle Obama up at night, but she talked about what government does for you. I'm gonna be more specific. Yeah. Like when her husband eliminated the D.C. Opportunity Scholarship program that assisted people that needed help. Not unlike, and I'm gonna be specific, not government, the Democrat Party, like they did when they eliminated the Invest in Kids program. Is that what she talking about? What government does? Okay. So you know what? I don't need to hear anything else from her. Okay, you all have a good day.
Thanks for the call, Ron. Government does everything for us.
Yeah, that's a
declarative
statement there from her.
Where would we be without the government doing all the things the government does and does so well? All the things the government does that we can't do for ourselves through private action. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really interesting slip of the underlying philosophy of the Michelle Obamas of the world. We've had a couple of slips lately. We had that congresswoman from Brooklyn who talked about migrants, needing migrants in her district for redistricting purposes, and Michelle Obama won the government as the omnipotent and omniscient force for good in the West. You know how you protect our democracy? Grow the government. Interesting. David in Winnetka.
Hey, good morning, guys. Okay, and before you pound me in the political dirt, let me just get this all out. If you think about it this way, so our heads were all reeling when Kamala got into office, and they still are. So with Michelle, I believe this whole thing was perpetrated just, to get her in there. Like, she doesn't want to be in the hot seat. She can't handle that. But if you're following, suit somebody like Kamala, my God, who's not going to want to jump on that bandwagon simply to try to stop, the good, being Trump?
Oh, you think not only will Michelle run for office, she'll take a VP slot with Biden?
No, I think she will run. I think she will run for president.
No,
I see. So she's going to run for president, but she will never be in the hot seat. Do you know how the presidency works?
And that's why I said before you pound me the political.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, come on, think this through.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. I think this. First of all, part of the exasperation is you have to deal with. I mean, I don't have to, but I choose to. You listen to people that, unfortunately, millions of people listen to for some reason. That mystifies me, and there's so many examples of that. I mentioned Jesse Waters because he's the one propping up this shibboleth about Michelle Obama. Every time she does an interview, she's waiting in the wings. She's about to pounce. We've been doing this since 2016. It's tiresome. And so, I mean, I've been saying it since when Barack Obama first ran, who I knew a little bit when he was in the state Senate. And so I knew a little bit about the dynamic of their relationship. I've been saying for the better part of, 15 years, Michelle Obama has no interest in elective office. Just try to wire that into your brain. But instead, because people, so instead people like to play fantasy politics because it's easier to talk about things that would keep you up at night, like Michelle Obama in the Oval Office, than it is about sort of what the actual dynamics are on the landscape.
And you're million percent right. But what was different then? The world. The last 3 years, it has gone to hell.
Michelle Obama is not different.
And
no,
I
agree. But who's not going to vote for her if they throw her in there? If they just throw her up there,
she's not going to do it. She's not going to do it. I don't know how many. If you guys would listen, have you ever heard her be interviewed? Like there was one time she was interviewed at the White House. She goes, "I want to run out that door." Like she was in the verge of a nervous breakdown. She's like, "I want to run out and leave."
First of all,
go get an ice cream.
Not to mention, but by the way, David, by the way, the part of this whole conversation, which has been going on for the better part of since Joe Biden got elected, that we've addressed innumerable times. They're going to make Joe Biden step down. How is the they doing? Who are the they? I don't know. Oh, the Obamas. The Obama surrogates like Susan Rice or Valerie Jarrett's going to come in and say, Joe and Jill, you have to leave. I don't think so. That's not how this works. And what are the incentives that the Biden family have to stay? All of them, especially with the legal scrutiny they're under now. So, just the whole thing is just, again, it's fun to, it's like fantasy sports. It's fun to talk about what if Pat Mahomes was the Bears quarterback? Well, you think they'd be a playoff team. So, you can play out all these scenarios. That's not going to happen, but it's fun to talk about.
One last little point here. What you speak of is logic, intelligence, knowing. All of it. The other side is just all basic emotion. And so when Michelle sets it up like, hey, even though I hate Sandy's point, even though I hate politics and I don't want to do it, I, as a person that cares about politics the most, had to come in and da-da-da. And that's where she gets the hot seat away. Everybody just says, oh, my God,
no,
for the country.
She doesn't. Thanks for the call, David. She is a show pony. She comes in to draw attention, to sell books when she's about to do a tour or whatever, to stay relevant, so that the $50 million Netflix contract and the Martha's Vineyard spread and the place in Hawaii and hanging out with celebrities and living the life as a the closest thing that we have to monarchs in this country, short of the tech billionaires. That's what she wants. All this save the country. I'm going to do this. And the idea, nobody gets a pass running, much less being president of the United States, by the way, too. And Michelle Obama is smart enough to know that. Come on. Robert Bloomingdale.
Michelle Obama, who cares what he has to say? And as far as I'm concerned, Trump, when he's elected the president again, got those poor souls pardoned on January 6th. And the only reason Biden's on attack is because he's going to lose, and he knows it. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, business owners, are you wondering how to grow your business? Do you need cash flow and a ready source for financing? Well, Signature Bank can help. Hi, Mike Gallagher here to let you know that Signature Bank's loan decisions are made locally by a team who knows your name, cares about your business, and is invested in your success. When you need advice about your business or even have a question, Signature Bank is there to help. There are no handoffs or call centers. This is a team that wants to get to know you and your business. That's why Signature Bank in Chicago is my bank. That's right. I'm a customer. When I call, someone picks up the phone on the other end. And with Signature Bank, I can securely bank anywhere, anytime. Reach out to my friends at Signature Bank. Call 773-467-5630. That's 773-467-5630, or visit them online at signaturebank.bank. Signaturebank.bank. Your business could be Signature Bank's next success story. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Well, I've been taking it for some time. We saw the ad, and we thought we would give it a try. And I noticed after the first month, we just felt better. I told my doctor, too, and she said, this sounds like a really good product for you to be taking. We plan to take it for life.
I ran this by my doctor. I always run it by her, everything I take, and I told her I've been taking this for a while. Is this okay to take? She goes, oh, this is wonderful for you to take. Keep taking it. She goes, I approve this. This is very good. So she said, yes. This is one thing you can take that's very good. I'm not going to stop taking Balance of Nature.
Step into the new year with a new you. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code Chicago.
AM 560, The Answer.
That sound means it's time for another installment of In-Depth History with Frank from Arlington Heights, because there's nothing new in this world. It's just the history we don't know. Take it away, Frank.
Good morning. The Pax Britannica gave order to the world from 1815 to 1914, 99 years without a major war. One aspect of British power at the time was its control of key choke points, including Singapore, Suez, Gibraltar, and the Straits of Hormuz. From these, the British could control world trade and enhance the value of the pound sterling. But by 1914, the United States was moving from isolation to engagement. We had now dominated North America and had started to move outward in the Spanish-American War in 1899. Teddy Roosevelt's big stick diplomacy and William Howard Taft's dollar diplomacy were indicative of this. Now, indeed, we fought the Central Powers in World War I and the Axis powers in World War II. But strategically, we also seized the mantle of world leadership from Britain in 1945 and gained the exorbitant privilege of having the dollar now be the world's currency. The Pax Americana had replaced the Pax Britannica. Recently, Iranian Houthi-backed rebels have been attempting to disrupt this paradigm with their missile and drone attacks in the Red Sea. I don't think they'll amount to much. American power is so vast and our technology so superior that any success is like the proverbial mosquito biting an elephant. A clear sign of American strength is how ferocious our presidential race has been in recent decades. The person who wins that office is effectively an American Caesar. We truly have become an empire. Are we still a republic? William Jennings Bryan would probably have a lot to say about this, I'm sure.
Thought-provoking as always. I'm not sure we're an empire. That's a worthy discussion as well. But I'm more hung up just because we're talking about Michelle Obama, thinking about Teddy Roosevelt's big stick diplomacy. You know what I mean? Coming out. Thanks so much, Frank. As always, thought-provoking. We're gonna have a discussion, a deep discussion, roundtable, jumping off of one of Frank's history minutes one of these times, because this is a good one.
All right,
anyway,
coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Speaking again of Michelle Obama, bans on trans surgeries at 7:07.
But now let's head straight into that newsroom on a busy day. When's the snow going to arrive? Here's Mike Scott.
Snow is already here and pounding Chicago area roadways this morning. Winter storm hitting us through the evening today. Investigating a police officer shot in the Gold Coast. The Supreme Court denies a review request of a ruling that upholds Illinois' gun ban put in place by Governor J.B. Pritzker. Bulls edge the Hornets in overtime. Blackhawks host the Oilers, and the Bears are signing players. WIND Chicago News Time, 7.
Boeing's bolts are driving airlines nuts.
I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. United and Alaska have both found issues with door plugs on the same type of Boeing MAX 9 jet now grounded since the door plug blew off an Alaska flight Friday, leaving a gaping hole and passengers fearing the worst.
United saying in a statement, quote, since we began preliminary inspections on Saturday, we have found instances that appear to relate to installation issues in the door plug. For example, bolts that needed additional tightening. These findings will be remedied by our tech ops team to safely return the aircraft to service.
Fox Business Network's Cheryl Casoni, that moonlander launched yesterday, won't be landing on the moon after all. There's been a critical fuel leak, and the unmanned spacecraft is going to lose power. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Israel meeting with the war cabinet and families of hostages Hamas still holds in Gaza. He says these are
incredibly challenging times for Israel, for countries in the region, and especially for people who continue to suffer.
Speaking of suffering, Israel's announced what it describes as a short humanitarian pause in fighting in Gaza to let more aid in. This days before a lawsuit alleging genocide is brought before the International Court of Justice.
That's Fox's Jonathan Savage. Former President Trump goes to court today in appeals court in D.C., where he's arguing he has immunity from actions he took while president, ahead of a looming criminal trial on 2020 election-related federal charges. As his Republican 2024 rival Nikki Haley tells a Fox town hall in Iowa a week before the caucuses, she can beat the former president, hoping attempts to take him off ballots fail.
If they can do this to him, they'll do it to someone else.
Haley's just 7 points back of Trump in New Hampshire in a new CNN UNH poll. Ron DeSantis has a Fox town hall tonight. Tomorrow there's a Trump town hall also from Iowa. Hail to the victors in college football. They're in Ann Arbor, Michigan, celebrating the national championship. Michigan beat Washington last night 34-13. America's listening to Fox News.
34 degrees, 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. A winter storm is hitting the Chicago area today. Heavy wet snow falling, 3 to 6 inches possible in the city and suburbs, 6 to 12 inches, and colder weather in some of the far northwest suburbs. Hazardous conditions are impacting the morning commute and will continue through the evening commute. There are several schools already closed today, colleges as well. E-learning is in effect at some. You need to check your local school website or look for reminds from your school on your phone for status updates. An investigation is underway following a Chicago police officer being shot and badly hurt, responding to a smash and grab robbery in Chicago's Gold Coast neighborhood. Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling.
When officers arrived on scene, they encountered an individual who was armed with a handgun. The officers attempted to de-escalate by telling the subject to drop the gun. He did not. Shortly thereafter, there was an exchange of gunfire.
The officer and the offending suspect were later taken to the hospital. Alderman Brian Hopkins now wants TIF special use district money applied to securing sidewalks with bollards in 3 months or less. A woman pleading guilty to murder for helping her mother brutally kill a pregnant Chicago teen in 2019 and steal the baby from her womb. Desiree Figueroa and her mother are accused of strangling 19-year-old Marlon Ochoa Lopez, cutting her baby boy from her after luring her to their Southwest Side home to exchange baby clothes. As part of the plea agreement, Desiree must testify against her mother. Desiree Figueroa's boyfriend is already serving time in prison. The U.S. Supreme Court is denying an Illinois lawmaker's request to review Illinois High Court ruling that upheld the state's assault weapons ban put in place by Governor J.B. Pritzker. The denial of State Rep. Dan Calkin's request essentially closes the door on his very narrow legal challenge to the law. However, several separate federal lawsuits continue. Scheduling conference in the Southern District of Illinois Federal Court for one of the cases is set for this week. Michigan Wolverines college football playoff national champions crushing Washington 34-13 in the title game. Bulls over Charlotte 119-112 in overtime, and the Blackhawks take on Calgary. The news service of the AM 560 Advantage, where membership has its privileges. Join today at 560theanswer.com/join. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Gonna say I think that Tucker Carlson is the easiest and the best choice. It's the easiest to give us a chance for victory. Now, whether or not Tucker wants to be vice president remains to be seen, but we trust him. He's 100% America first, and we can waive the lie detector test for Tucker. There's no mystery. We know what he believes.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
When you're serious about your concealed carry training and education and are ready to learn from an active police officer with a teaching degree, check out Illinois Concealed Carry Training in Midlothian. You'll learn safe, responsible firearm use, home defense planning, conflict avoidance, situational awareness, and how to remain physically, morally, and financially safe in the event you must use your firearm in self-defense or the defense of another. Weekday and weekend classes available.
I'm Sergeant Gary Carr, police firearms trainer and the owner of Illinois Concealed Carry Training. We'll arm you with what really counts: knowledge and training. All concealed carry curriculums are not created equal. This may be the single most important decision you'll ever make for yourself and your loved ones. Choose between 3 and 16-hour classes that are available both weekdays and weekends. We are your one-stop for concealed carry classes, fingerprints, and legal defense plans.
Register for a class today and get 10% off class fees with promo code AM560. Visit IllinoisConcealedCarry.com. That's IllinoisConcealedCarry.com.
Major phone carriers make you sign contracts with rigid data plans to trap you into a kind of forced phonogamy. Sounds pretty insecure if you ask me. At Consumer Cellular, we believe in a more consensual and healthy form of phonogamy, free of contracts and more flexible to your data needs. This way, you stick around not because we force you to with contracts and fees, but because you love our phone plans. Like ardently love our phone plans. Phonogamously. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Man, you talk about hitting a grand slam, just feeling just incredible. And I mean, I haven't felt this great in years. I'm 52, and with these, wow. And I just appreciate, I'm impressed. I've never felt this great. I just want to say thank you to you guys.
Honey, I am like a different woman. I mean, finally one day I kept seeing that commercial, and I said, what the heck? What do I got to lose? I started feeling a little bit better. So I got my sister on them. I got my daughter on them. I can't say enough about them. I really can't. Those commercials that you all do is the truth.
Step into the new year with a new you. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code Chicago.
7:08. Let's get an update on the roads. We do that, of course, in our Team Hochberg Traffic Center. We start on the Kennedy, where it's 25 and climbing O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. 34 on the inbound I-390 into the old post office. Stevenson inbound, stop and go, central to Kedzie. I-55, Will County, southbounders, you're closed right now. The freeway shut off as they remove an accident near Reed Road that's blocking both lanes. Dan Ryan inbound, jam solid 95th up to the Skyway. Delays on the Veterans Memorial I-355 northbound right at Army Trail with an accident on the right shoulder and another in the ditch. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Let's get the very latest in our QC Kinetics Weather Center with Steve Williams.
A winter weather advisory in effect this morning. Rain and some snow accumulating 1 to 2 inches. A slick commute this morning, high 37. Wet snow tonight, 1 to 3 inches, low 29. Breezy tomorrow morning, cloudy and the high at 31. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
About 1.1 inches of snow at O'Hare, 1.7 Midway. Homer Glen, 3.5 inches. Clarendon Hills, good morning, 2.7 inches of snow. Officially at O'Hare, light snow and 34. Your next news update, 7:30, Chicago's Morning Answer, continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So we have the Iowa caucus on Monday, but of course we still have fallout from that terrible school shooting in Perry, Iowa, in which a 6th grader was murdered and 7 others were injured. Here's some of the headlines in the last few days. I was waiting to see the coverage as it develops after something like that, since we've had to deal with so many of these mass shootings in public places and obviously particularly schools. AP News 2 days ago. 11-year-old killed in Iowa school shooting was a joyful boy known as Smiley, his mom says. NBC yesterday. Iowa school shooter appeared to use Discord moments before attack. Discord? Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay.
So it's a social media site. Okay. Oh. PBS. Students rally at the Iowa Capitol days after Perry school shooting.
Yeah, they had a walkout.
Guardian, other outlets, of course, over the weekend made a big deal of Trump tells Iowans to get over school shooting at campaign event. I know the phrase taken out of context is overused. It's often used when you're not taking somebody out of context. They're just using that as a cover to try to get out from underneath something they said. But that characterization of what Trump said at the campaign event is actually taken out of context, and it fails to include what preceded the whole thing about this being a terrible event. You need to come together as a community. Those sort of, anodyne statements. But what else can you say when something like this happened? And that you get over it meant sort of moving on, coming together, and moving on together is the way that he was trying to convey that. Even though that particular phrase was inartful, something that is not new for Trump. But the characterization that he was dismissive of it is totally unfair. But that's what you expect from the D.C. press corps, and so you're getting it. Okay, so that's some of the headlines, the focus of the press corps. You know what I'm not seeing a lot of coverage of?
What?
The fact that the shooter on his social media posts pointed to an interest in the LGBT movement, identified as gender fluid, used he, they pronouns. This was a dude. Also, now getting to the Discord thing. So he's all in this, gender fluidity, gender identity space. He posted a video on TikTok from an account in the minutes leading up to the shooting. A Discord account has a similar name, appears to also belong to him. And he was posting things like, I'm prepared for what happens next, but I'm very nervous about it. By the way, this Discord portal had been previously used by mass shooters, including the Buffalo mass shooter, that Buffalo market.
Why haven't they shut it down?
Shut the site, shut the
shut
portal
the site
down?
Well,
Why?
I mean, if mass shooters are using it and it's encouraging other mass shootings, then what the heck's going on? Or who's mining the store?
Yeah, well, I think law enforcement being tipped off and have some of these statements being concerning and having been flagged, and what law enforcement did or didn't do about it, that's the issue, not shutting down every social media site where somebody says something untoward. In point of fact, the fact that they do post some of these people that mean to do others harm do post about it, to give advance warning is a good thing, because hopefully somebody does see it and you do get law enforcement involved and it's prevented. The stuff that was reported to the FBI, which the FBI failed to follow up on, and I understand I don't want to be too unfair to the FBI here, like the amount of information flow about social media postings and so on and so forth that they get from around the country. And yeah. But there's been a lot of instances where law enforcement has, not been as competent as it could have been with respect to information that preceded a horrific mass murder. The user was part of a chat room dedicated to discussing school shootings called School Massacres Discussion. A Discord user saw the user in the chat, told NBC News. The Discord user said they had flagged the chat room to the FBI in November, after which an FBI agent reached out over email and asked for more information. The user emailed the FBI agent screenshots of the server, did not hear back. The chat room was closed before the shootings. And again, Discord has a zero-tolerance policy against content that glorifies violence, violent extremism. They have community guidelines, just like every other social media site, and so on and so forth. But the LGBTQ piece, the possibility that maybe, and I don't know, I'm just raising this issue, think about how the reporting is when it's LGBTQ, 2S plus 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 plus. Think of the unusual circumstances to try to prevent the release of the Shooter's Manifesto in Nashville. The other instances of LGBTQ plus 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 mass shooters.
Yeah, the Aberdeen shooter was identified as trans. The Nashville shooter identified as trans. Why can't they say it?
Well,
what's the big deal?
There's been at least a half a dozen over the last couple of years. And the point is not to say that that means that all, of course not. That's what the media does when it's somebody who, has anything related to conservatism or Trump or any other Republican politician. Then it's, white nationalism, mass shooters. This is an epidemic, the greatest threat to our democracy, so on and so forth. But we don't do that in reverse because we're adults and we recognize that it's a small, infinitesimal fraction of any particular demographic who engages in these acts of evil. So to say it's this exact profile, then you have to explain, well, why do people with a very similar profile, very similar politics, let's say, for example, not commit mass shootings, not commit acts of violence? It's hard to explain, which is why these sorts of things are hard to stop, except to the extent that you get information ahead of time and you can scramble the appropriate response to prevent it. Very difficult, which is why you have to give law enforcement some, latitude here in terms of culpability. Not always, but generally speaking, I'm saying. But, what is the attitude in terms of tiptoeing around somebody who is politically sensitive, somebody that has become a part of a cohort that is glorified by the culture as opposed to somebody who isn't? Nobody kicks up much dust if the FBI targets Catholics attending a Latin Mass. But if there's any sort of sense that somebody in one of these invented protected classes is being hassled by law enforcement, it's a much different situation, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And because of what we know about the identitarian culture that has taken hold, not just writ large, but also within law enforcement, you don't think law enforcement perhaps is more reticent to engage depending on the subject, as opposed to more excited to engage depending on the subject?
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment. One point, with the Nashville shooter, I felt like they cared more about protecting the shooter in death than they did about the victims' family members who were killed. And also, too, if these people were MAGA or Trump supporters and they had that on their social media profiles, the mainstream media would blow this out of the water.
Oh,
They'd
there's no
be beside
question.
themselves. And they would try to take down Trump in 2024 using those shooters' profiles as an example.
Every Trump voter is a mass shooter, just like every Trump voter is an insurrectionist.
Right.
If there was a mass shooter who was decked out in MAGA gear or something, I mean, they've tried to shoehorn Trump into these mass shootings by some of the mass shootings where there's been some sort of insinuation or connection, although it's even when it's completely confused and you can't make heads or tails of it. They're all over the place in terms of their politics and so on and so forth. But they still try to. But that's not the case with these. We don't. You get the coverage. You're not talking about that. They're talking about discord because it's a law enforcement issue. Somebody tipped off the FBI. FBI followed up, and then maybe they dropped the ball. We don't really know, but that's sort of the implication. But there's no talk about this guy's gender identity politics. Not at all.
Got a text message. Dan and Amy, what is the commonality between LGBTQ and mass shooters? Both are crying out for attention.
Well, yeah, but again, this is the sort of, all poodles are dogs, but not all dogs are poodles. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's a lot of people crying out for attention that don't engage in violence. Jordan in Antioch.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy. So another shooting by a person who's just looking to be loved and just looking for love and identity and support. When are we going to start finding out what is happening in these counseling groups that parents aren't allowed in? When are we going to find out, when are we going to have a Project Veritas that goes into these groups to find out who's radicalizing these kids, who's funding these kids, who's putting this crap in their heads? Obviously, you already have a group that's supporting people who are in a bad place in their mind, and they're not getting the right help. They're getting encouragement. They're getting enabling, and they're pushed to this stuff by somebody. I still stand on the fact that even though they are confused about their gender, whatever, their identity, we still know right from wrong, and what you're doing is wrong. And who is telling these people to do this? Who's pushing them? Who's pulling the strings? And I've said this forever and ever and ever, and I would really like to find somebody that will go into one of these groups and have the stones to get undercover and find out what these teachers, what these doctors, what these social workers, what these string pullers are putting in these poor people's heads, the most vulnerable people that they can come across. The ultimate cry for help has been replaced with transgender. When these people, that texter's right, that is a cry for attention, but it's only been pushed by the people that they've gone to try to help with their problems already. And when are we going to find out who is doing this to them and hold their feet to the fire? Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Jordan. I mean, who is doing this? I mean, the sense of encouraging them to commit acts of violence or encouraging them to immerse themselves in gender identity politics? Because again, even though I disagree with it, those who are gender identitarians, again, it is a small fraction that engage in acts of violence. So there's something else going on, and it's so case specific. That's why it's so confounding and frustrating, because for every piece of evidence you point to, every part of somebody's profile, you can point to, again, similar context, evidence, profile features of people that don't do harm to others. The existence of evil in the world, the nature of our permissive culture, a culture that promotes, unrestrained pursuit of pleasure. And maybe it just turns out that some people are much closer to the edge than other people. So it's unproductive. It's an unproductive culture. It's a depraved culture, really. But some people can handle and even engage in the depravity without doing harm to others. And for some others, it puts people over the edge. I mean, it's the same thing to some extent we talked about in terms of how isolation impacts young people. It's not healthy across the board, but in some cases where people are closer to the edge, it drives them over. But for a lot of people, most people, it doesn't. But it's still something to deal with, and it's just so case specific. It's a real challenge, and so I hesitate to make, blanket statements in terms of recommendations for this is it or this is what we must do, because there's just nothing that I've heard that contemplates all the variables in play. Greg Schomburg.
Okay, I'll put one on the table then. What includes everything? When you remove God from the equation of your public discussions, you remove the ultimate determination of what is good and evil, or at least some notion of what good and evil is. And when you legally preclude that from being involved in the public discussion in any way, you have Satan having a complete open door to kids' minds, and all of the sundry, causal reasons that you're dealing with, right, Dan? If Satan gets a hold on any given one of them, he's going to drive it through to its maximum import. Thanks.
Thanks for the call, Greg. Yeah, I don't disagree. But there were people who chose evil and committed horrific acts of violence against others when this was a much more God-fearing country than it is today. So, I mean, I agree. The premise of what Greg said, I'm in 100% agreement with, but it just still can't give you the all-encompassing answer that we're seeking, I'm afraid. Jeff in Cal City.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. I just wanted to say that this sort of stuff that's been going on, especially with the reporting around it, just makes me feel very apathetic. And I know that sounds so impersonal, but the reporting is so unfair. Whether the reporting, they don't want to get down to what's really going on with these people, what's really happening. It's just everything has a political spin and bias that I just don't care anymore. I mean, and
yeah.
Unfortunately, unless it happens directly to someone I know or someone that is very touching to me, I don't care anymore. I just don't care. And that's what the politicalization of these mass shootings is doing. I don't care.
It desensitizes you. Man, it's interesting. Thanks for the call, Jeff. No, I mean, you're right. Even the coverage of that 6-year-old kid who was murdered, it's all for the sake of sentimentality. It's not for the sake of trying to do what we're trying to do here, which is, kick it around and try to have a thoughtful conversation and look at it from different angles. Really talk about it. Think and talk. This is just about, the coverage is just about getting you to feel or not feel, to Jeff and Cal City's point, or not feel at all. Feel animus towards somebody they want, somebody that they don't like. Feel, that sense of empathy, but without particular point or thinking, to make yourself feel better. Like, I'm a good person because I feel bad about what happened in Perry, Iowa, most recently. And what happened, of course, with the murder of that 6th grader and the injuries that were committed against those others who were injured. But rather than just sort of like empty empathy feeling so I can pat myself on the back. So it's like, so yes, we all come from anybody who believes in living in a free and peaceful society is coming from the same place. So we don't have to spend a lot of time trying to out-empathize one another. Now let's take what happened and let's think about it, really think about it, and talk about it. But that's not what the press corps wants you to do. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
My brother was here with his wife, and I said, listen, take the rest of these 2 bottles. And my brother's like, well, and I said, no, there's nothing to think about. Just get it, order it, get it on auto ship. And in the first couple months, you may not thank me and go, I don't feel anything. But I said, but about that 3rd month, it starts kicking in. I mean, I'm singing, I'm doing dishes. I love it. Absolutely love, love, love it.
Step into the new year with a new you. Start your journey to better health by going to balanceofnature.com and signing up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code Chicago.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. The IRS just rolled out a new program to help struggling taxpayers more easily resolve their tax problems. It's called the Taxpayer Relief Initiative, and it opens up powerful new options for people looking to get back on the right track with the IRS. And no one knows this program like the professionals at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution company. They've resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients and have the expertise and experience to help you. One easy call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries of wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Make today the beginning of your fresh start with the IRS. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief now for your free confidential consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
AM 560. The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 7:37, you want to know why there are food deserts in certain parts of Chicago and other big cities? The story of Ruben Ramirez will explain it to you, at least in part. We'll start there with Ted Dabrowski, 7:37.
And Governor Pritzker loves his emergency proclamations. We'll talk to Ted about that as well. But now let's head into that newsroom. Very busy man today. Here's Mike Scott.
7:32, 34 degrees, snow and rain falling across the area. Secretary of State Antony Blinken continues his Middle East shuttle diplomacy with Israeli officials today in Tel Aviv. It's all part of the U.S. effort, he says, to prevent the Israel-Hamas war from spreading even further in the region.
To help Gaza stabilize and recover, to chart a political path forward for the Palestinians, and to work toward long-term peace.
It's Blinken's 4th trip to the Middle East since Hamas terror attacks inside Israel October 7. Both United and Alaska Airlines found loose bolts during an examination of some aircraft. NTSB investigator Clint Cruikshanks.
The exam to date has shown that the door, in fact, did translate upward. All 12 stops became disengaged, allowing it to blow out of the fuselage.
The inspection of its 737 MAX 9 fleet came after a door plug was blown out of an Alaska Airlines plane over the weekend. Michigan Wolverines are the college football playoff national champions. Michigan defeating Washington 34-13. The father of Jim Harbaugh, himself a national title winner, says the family knew early in the second half a title was in their grasp.
There was a time in about the middle of the third quarter when we looked at each other, not a word was spoken, but the wavelength was gone. Maybe this is the moment.
Jim Harbaugh honoring his dad, bringing him up on stage during the trophy presentation. That winter storm has dropped anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of snow this morning on the city and the suburbs, even more in the northwest suburbs. Hazardous driving conditions. Several schools and colleges are closed or delayed. Check your local school website or look for reminds on your phone. A woman is pleading guilty to murder for helping her mother brutally kill a pregnant Chicago teen in 2019 and steal a baby from her womb. Desiree Figueroa and her mother Clarissa are accused of strangling 19-year-old Marlon Ochoa Lopez, cutting her baby boy from the girl, luring her to their Southwest Side home to exchange baby clothes. The baby died a few months later. Desiree Figueroa's boyfriend is already serving time in prison for his role in the murder and assault. A Wilmette man is facing child pornography charges. Cook County Sheriff's Office says investigators found that Owen Taylor reportedly was in possession of child pornography. He was arrested last Wednesday. And an outbreak of salmonella in Illinois and 13 other states has been linked to charcuterie trays sold at Sam's Club stores. The items have a best if used by April 27, 2024 date. 2 dozen fallen sick. Bulls earned their second straight win following a 119-112 overtime victory over the slumping Hornets in Charlotte. Blackhawks will try to get a winning streak going when they host Edmonton at the UC later on tonight. The news, a service of Remke's Garage. Take it to the experts. Take it to Remke's Garage. The shop at Remke's Garage, equipped with state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment, highly trained techs. Remke's Garage is your Sprinter diesel and Toyo tire headquarters. Visit remkesgarage.com. That's remkesgarage.com. Schedule your inspection today. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dennis Prager sees America waking up.
These past several months have seen Harvard and higher education face a series of sustained and unprecedented challenges. Because the American people are waking up to the cesspools that our universities are. I've called them moral and intellectual cesspools for decades, and now a lot of Americans agree.
The Dennis Prager Show. Weekdays at 11, right before Charlie Kirk at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
It's Reveille. For most Americans, any understanding of the border crisis comes in snippets of talking points that were written and approved by leftists in the mainstream media or 30-second video clips they catch on social media. Relatively few Americans live at or near the border or do government or social service work dealing with migrants. This leaves many Americans uninformed about what open border policies really look like. Last week, I toured the wide-open southern border in Eagle Pass, Texas, one of the major crossing points for illegals into the country. I saw the open points of entry, the takeover of private property, and spoke with people in the know. They didn't mince words. The former mayor of Uvalde, Don McLaughlin, said the U.S. is the largest human trafficker in the world. Others noted that the Mexican government is the cartel, and the American government is working with the cartel. That's a very strong statement, but that's how they see it. Property owners noted that hundreds cross through their farm daily, and the fences are insufficient to stop them from coming. The crossing is dangerous, and so is the high heat. In 1 week, they found 57 dead bodies. What would we think of illegal immigrants in DuPage County if we found 57 dead bodies in 1 week? On one Texas radio show, the guest called Chicago's Mayor Johnson a whiny baby, noting that the city has had a fraction of illegals in 1 year that they see cross the border in 1 month. At the current pace, 12 million people will cross illegally into the United States during the Biden administration. That's nearly the population of Illinois, the 6th largest state. Taxpayers will spend on net $151 billion annually to support people here illegally. But the biggest threat of illegal immigration is what it does to perpetuate hopelessness in ordinary citizens, that our laws will be respected and enforced equally. I'm Jeannie Ives. To learn more, listen to my radio program on Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. and sign up for my newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com. That's breakthrough-ideas.com.
Amy Jacobson here on behalf of all of us here at AM 560 The Answer. I wanted to take just a minute to say thank you to each and every one of you who's participated in our annual Food for the Poor campaign over the past month. Because of your generosity, we've raised nearly $200,000 to provide food for an entire year for over 4,700 children in Latin America and the Caribbean. We especially want to thank the many business benefactors who supported this campaign. This year, when you hear their commercials airing on this station, please support their businesses as a way of thanking them for their generosity. And just because the Christmas season is over, that doesn't mean that the need has gone away. You can still make a tax-deductible gift of any amount to Food for the Poor by visiting 560theanswer.com/food for the poor. That's 560theanswer.com/food for the poor. And on behalf of all of us here at AM 560 The Answer and at Food for the Poor, thanks again for your generosity.
Need to hire quality candidates fast? You need Indeed. Our video interview tool makes it easy and effortless to meet with candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
At 7:40, let's check the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Gurney, an accident. Hunt Club Road and Grand Avenue. Grays Lake, an accident. Midlothian, just south of Route 173. Jane Addams, an accident. 2 right lanes blocked eastbound between Route 53 and Arlington Heights Road. And your Bishop Ford, the major trouble spot inbound between 103rd and the Dan Ryan. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Mix of snow and rain and some major accumulation crossing the area. High 37 today. More accumulating snow and dangerous travel overnight as temperatures drop to 28. It's 35 at O'Hare and across Chicago's lakefront. Your next news update is at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. That theme music means it's time for our weekly confab with Ted Dabrowski, president of wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Before we get to Ted, those food deserts that mayors like BLM Brandon and Triple Threat before him complain about, the lack of investment in the west and south sides,
and
for
that's
example.
Why we're going to have a government-run grocery store.
Exactly.
What are we going to call it again, Dan?
Gimme that. Gimme that grocery stores. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Still waiting for that to come online. Yeah.
BLM Brandon may find out that running his Gimme Dat grocery store in places that have been turned over to criminals to prey on the law-abiding is more difficult than he might think. Give an example. This is out of California. It's out of L.A., Compton to be specific. But, of course, it has application to every other big city in the country, with mayors like BLM Brandon and prosecutors like Kim Foxx. LA's got those. Compton. Ruben Ramirez Jr. is the proprietor of Ruben's Bakery, which was started by Ruben Ramirez Sr., his father. And you may have seen this one because of just the mass number of individuals that engaged in looting when they did one of those back the car through the front window, smash, and everybody run in and take everything you can do. You take everything you can get your hands on.
Yeah, like what they tried to do at the Prada store yesterday, and a cop got shot.
Exactly right. 100. So estimated 100 people. SUV smashes the front window of the bakery. And this is in Compton, tough neighborhood, as everyone knows, straight out of Compton, NWA. 100 people, and this, of course, is all caught on security camera. Here's Ruben Ramirez talking about it, the $70,000 in damage that was done to his business.
The same folks involved in that street takeover, well, they took over Rubens, not only stealing everything they could carry, but what they couldn't carry, they basically destroyed. It had to be heartbreaking to watch that video.
Oh, it's very heartbreaking to see, what my family has built over the years to just, in 5-6 minutes, just be destroyed. It angers you.
You told me your parents and your dad is, I don't know if he's still sitting over there. He's been busy in the kitchen.
Yeah.
He's, 83 years old?
Yeah, my dad's 83. He's been retired, but he still loves to come and, help where he can and just take care of it. This is his baby. I think he loves the store more than he loves me, so. Yeah.
I doubt that, but and this really touched my heart. You told me that your dad cried when he saw the video of that mob just destroying. And you got to think, people steal. You don't justify stealing, but not only did they steal things, they just broke things just to break them.
Yeah, it was they broke our scales. We had to get new scales. I mean, our cash registers, I get it. They broke them because of, there's money inside them. But yeah, it was just a mess. They left a bunch of stuff overturned. All the meat we had to throw away. We don't know what, glass was in there or just people touching it. So yeah, we lost a lot of merchandise.
Ted Dabrowski, President Wire Points. Ted, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's a sad continuation of what we saw during the riots across the country, and this kind of behavior was what do you want to call it? Allowed. It's called reparations. It was part of the equity.
Symbolic taking.
Symbolic. Yeah, it's just property. The insurance will pay for it. It doesn't really matter. And, it's amazing, but that stuff stuck. It's stuck, and it's still sticking today. And it's why we're seeing this kind of behavior 3 years on from that, and why we're seeing that kind of behavior on the robberies, on the car thefts. It's all just part of the normality now. And I don't know how we change that new normal, but it's there for now.
There's talk of putting big barriers in front of every store on Michigan Avenue now and on Oak Street. And that, Alderman Hopkins wants to use TIF funds for that. But TIF funds are going to migrant shelters. That's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, for schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, turn every place into Fort Knox at a taxpayer expense.
We'll have big cement balls in front of every designer store, Dan.
Don't prosecute organized retail thieves. Just continue. We need more security cameras. We need, stone posts and barricades and security guards, and gosh, none of it seems to stop. I wonder what message all of this, except prosecuting the offenders, is sending to the offenders.
Well, and it comes back to your question that you asked right before the break. Was it's no wonder you have food deserts out there, because the more that you increase costs of security cameras and guards and whatever kind of protections you want to put in front of buildings, the more expensive it becomes to have a business. And it's already tough enough to run a business in places like Englewood or wherever, where you have massive crime, low incomes, and a disrespect for property. So it's the more that you fail to prosecute, the more this can be impossible to have businesses, even a Walmart, right? Even they can't afford to be there. So
I wonder where that lack of respect for property comes from, too. Other people's property, other people's things, and just the sort of general barbaric behavior that you see caught on security cameras all the time. A carjacking, an assault, throwing a log at somebody's head walking down the street, the Prada example. And by the way, the Prada guy, the guy who shot the cop, well, what did I read about 15 different arrests? The charge in 15 different arrests of this guy, the charges were dropped. I'd like to see a little bit more on the record in terms of handling what apparently was a habitual criminal. But this is, again, just all more of the same. I guess all we can do is tell stories and
hope that something will stick.
Hope that something will stick between people's heads in this city.
Well, yeah, I think that's the question. When do the communities, as we call them, right, But when do they get sufficiently ticked off enough to act? It's they bear the brunt. Of course, it's all spread out now more throughout the city, these crimes, but it's the low income communities that bear most of the brunt, and they should be the ones going crazy. I mean, you look at this number of motor vehicle thefts. We almost hit 30,000 in 2023. That's up from 9,000 in 2019. So, like you said, people don't care about property anymore. They think it's theirs. They can just take it, and it's okay. And again, that also happens when you raise the felony threshold to $1,000. I mean, you can steal stuff that's worth a lot and not get busted for it. You'll get released.
Something else that people can't seem to get people to care about. The Inspector General for CPS, for the Office of Inspector General, just issued a report on CPS. And, it's the usual, some $23 million in electronic devices were lost.
77,000 computers.
Right. And you've got examples of kids or adults or both losing them multiple times, 3, 4, 5 times. Yeah, I wonder if they're losing them to family members and friends. Anyway, I'm not, the money is the money is the money. Nobody cares. I mean, we could spend $100,000 per kid. It wouldn't change anything in CPS, and it wouldn't change anybody's concern about the dollars and cents. This is the one that still baffles me. The Sexual Allegations Unit inside CPS. Since its inception in 2018, they've opened 2,188 cases. They've substantiated policy violations in 363 investigations. Of the 446 complaints submitted to the Sexual Allegations Unit, that is, 2/3 were in the non-sexual category. A third alleged sexual abuse, physical contact, and sexual communications or grooming. Well, a third of 446 is like 147.
That's a big number.
Mm-hmm. Also, this it's just a lot. I mean, I know it's a small percentage, but it was a small percentage for the Catholic Church too, and there was proper outrage that anything that systemic was occurring. And yet here, also, the OIG has recommended CPS improve vendor and volunteer training surrounding its sexual misconduct policies. Yeah. Because 31 vendor employees and volunteers were found to have engaged in some sort of sexual misconduct, ranging from sexual comments directed at students to actual sexual abuse. So OIG's got some recommendations about how they can tighten that up a little bit. But I don't know. Again, small percentage, but a small percentage of a big number. Talking about the employees and vendor employees in CPS is still a big problem. Hundreds of cases of sexual abuse alleged and substantiated by this unit within the district. And other than a summary of the report in a couple of outlets, nothing.
Dan, this is one of the biggest untold stories, I think, in Illinois and Chicago. And I spent a good bit of time on this a few months ago, but it's hard to get all the data that you want because, well, you just can't get it. But I looked at this, and if you look at the Archdiocese of Chicago over the last couple of decades, or whatever, let's call it the last decade, the allegations are a handful, maybe a handful, even less than a handful. And then you look at the CPS and what goes on there. And remember, we're looking at stuff that's reported. God knows what's not reported anymore. And I think CPS has got to be something far worse than what you've seen in the churches. But we can't get there. We can't figure that out. But it needs to be exposed more and more. And there's been some work done on that. But I think that the numbers are pretty large, even if, like you say, it's a small percentage. And there's much more than meets the eye here. We got to dig into this more.
Where are all those storefront preachers and community activists that show up for peace marches and to give a quote to ABC7 about the shooting du jour? Where are they with respect to the extent that kids in CPS are being sexually exploited? I mean, this is a question I don't think it has an answer, but it's another thing where I can't understand parents are not communicating with other parents, communicating with other teachers and administrators, communicating with people that like to preen before the cameras and address this in a meaningful way. But nobody except the Inspector General seems particularly motivated.
Well, they won't tell parents who these teachers are either. Is there somebody in our school that we should be aware of? And they won't say a word because they're protecting that.
Oh, we're back to protecting. We're back
it's
to
true.
protecting the unions and
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's part of it for sure.
All right, Ted, let's move over to Mr. Pritzker because his latest emergency disaster proclamation. First, it was COVID. What did we have? 2 years straight of emergency proclamations, and now we have an emergency proclamation 18 times in a row for immigrants, illegal immigration.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So here we go again, right? Here you've got Governor Pritzker parroting a lot of what President Biden says about the lack of democracy, the loss of democracy. And here he goes again with a emergency declaration, the 18th, like you said, in a row on the immigrants, and it's for a crisis that he's helping create, right? He's saying, look, I'm going to give Medicaid to all these immigrants. I'm going to give legal services, job readiness support, rent, food, health screenings, all that. It's a sanctuary state and a sanctuary city. They're providing all these services, and then, when he's offering all that stuff for free, he says, we have a crisis now, so I better implement emergency powers, be the autocrat that I need to be to manage this crisis. So it's hypocrisy all the way, and unfortunately he's going to get away with it again because he was never held to account for the first time he did this during COVID. Right.
Certainly the General Assembly is not going to bother. Go ahead, Governor, spend whatever you got to spend to make sure that, we continue to increase our constituency, I suppose. On the Medicaid piece, health care for migrants, I've seen some numbers that that cost is approaching $1 billion. Have you seen that?
Yeah, well, we know that it was 500 that they budgeted. Then they came out and said that we're going to be at 800. And given the massive numbers that are coming in, and we're talking about not just the illegal immigrants that we know about, but all the others that come through. I mean, you got to assume that we're going to be way over $1 billion.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's fine in the suburbs because, as the mayor of Western Springs, Heidi Rudolph, says, "Welcome to Western Springs. Now get your ass on the train to Chicago." And the same thing's going on in all those suburbs, so everything's fine as long as Chicago. Yeah. It's all sent to Chicago. We'll send the cash to Chicago because we don't care about that either. And, carry on. Yeah,
I loved Wilmette. Wilmette had 5 buses come in, and they said, well, we're not going to make any statements or we're not going to change our policy. We're going to help out. And, of course, they just put them right on the Metro or the whatever CTA to go back downtown.
And some people dropped off bags of groceries, I saw. Oh, they're so valiant. I mean, way to take time out of your day to help the less fortunate.
That is, you can always count on those Wilmetians to be their brother's keeper. Get your ass on that train. Ted Dabrowski, President, Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Does your home feel chilly? Utility bills seem high? You wonder if your home is properly insulated? Hi, I'm Roy Spencer of Permaseal. For several years, we've been insulating basements and crawl spaces to make floors warmer and reduce utility bills. Now I'm very excited to tell you we are moving on up to the attic, the #1 source of energy loss in most homes. We are, of course, following the same Permaseal commitment to doing the job right. If you're not testing, you are guessing. So our process starts with a blower door test, which will measure the actual size of the energy loss in your home. Then using thermal cameras, we identify the precise location of the air leaks. We seal those with an expansive spray foam, and only then do we add additional insulation if needed. Bring your house up to code, and more importantly, make your home feel more comfortable and substantially lower utility bills. As always, we provide free, honest estimates by trained professionals. Call 800-421-7325. That's 800-421-SEAL or visit permaseal.net.
Chronic pain, it can ruin your marriage, bring on depression. It's no way to live. But now there's a non-surgical way to get rid of that hip, back, and joint pain. It's called QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in regenerative non-surgical pain relief. Did you know that your body has what it needs to restore and repair that damaged joint tissue? And QC Kinetics can make it happen. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. Hundreds of board-certified QC Kinetic providers have treated tens of thousands of satisfied patients all over America. People like you and me with back pain, hip pain, any pain associated with arthritis or an injury. Folks, this is not a Band-Aid. This is a revolutionary treatment that can get you moving again. Get your life back. And listen, it's non-surgical. So fight back against the pain. Take the first step now. Call QC Kinetics. This is the number, 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955.
WIND, Chicago.
Don't open Pandora's box. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what former President Trump warns will happen if an appeals court does not grant him immunity. Posting on Truth Social, it'll open up President Biden to indictment someday.
The Trump legal team today is going to argue that a president, sitting or former, cannot be charged with a crime if acting within his or her official duty.
Fox's Alexandria Hoff outside the Washington, D.C. appeals court, where the former president will attend this morning's hearing.
Now, the government's argument, it's a bit more cut and dry. It's that if absolute immunity is granted, it sets a dangerous standard that would simply allow for presidents to commit crimes.
All this ahead of a March Trump criminal trial on 2020 election-related charges.
Rightly or wrongly, chaos follows him.
So Nikki Haley told a Fox town hall in Iowa days before the caucuses she's the right choice for the Republican 2024 nomination. Haley is second in the new Fox News Power Rankings, with some polls showing her trailing the former president by just single digits in New Hampshire. Ron DeSantis is third. He has a Fox town hall in Iowa tonight, but there's a snowstorm there and in other parts of the Midwest, as a big system also threatens potential tornadoes in the south and feared flooding in the northeast. Fox Business Network's Grady Trimble is in Des Moines.
The candidates are crisscrossing the state, or trying to. In this snow, several events have been canceled. But one thing that's clear is that former UN ambassador Nikki Haley has won over those major donors. Her campaign is raking in a lot of money.
Days after that door plug blew off an Alaska Airlines flight, leaving a big gaping hole in the plane, both United and Alaska have found issues with more door plugs on more grounded Boeing MAX 9 jets. The day after an unmanned mission to the moon launched, it's over.
Pittsburgh-based Astrobotic Technology says a critical fuel leak detected aboard Peregrine, their lunar lander, is so severe it cannot finish its voyage to the moon.
Fox's Evan Brown, this would have been the first U.S. moon landing in over a half century. America's listening to Fox News.
8:02 on AM 560, The Answer, and good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Snow and 35. Winter storm hitting the Chicago area today. Heavy wet snow has fallen, 3 to 6 inches possible across the city and suburbs, 6 to 12 inches, and colder weather in the far northwest suburbs. Several schools have already closed today. Check your local school website or look for reminds from your school or college on your phone for status updates. An investigation continues following a Chicago police officer being shot and badly hurt while responding to a smash and grab robbery in Chicago's Gold Coast. Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling.
When officers arrived on scene, they encountered an individual who was armed with a handgun. The officers attempted to de-escalate by telling the subject to drop the gun. He did not. Shortly thereafter, there was an exchange of gunfire.
Authorities say officers responded early yesterday to a burglary at a Prada store in the 100 block of East Walton. The officer and offending suspect were taken to the hospital. Chicago police are searching for the man who robbed 2 people on the CTA Blue Line while armed with a machete. The incidents happened December 30th in the 500 block of South Kedzie Avenue. An outbreak of salmonella in Illinois and 13 other states has been linked to charcuterie trays sold at Sam's Club stores. The items have a best if used by April 27, 2024 date. 2 dozen have fallen sick. Email bomb threats sent to several Indiana school districts are under investigation today. Some districts evacuated yesterday when they received that threat. The Michigan Wolverines, national champions of college football with a win over Washington. AM 560 news time is 8:04. Time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Bitcoin's price is over $46,000 this morning. It topped $47,000 yesterday. Crypto prices have been rising with anticipation that regulators will approve a Bitcoin exchange-traded fund. A decision on some proposed funds could come this week. Match Group shares are up 15%. Elliott Investment Management has purchased about $1 billion worth of Match's shares and is likely to make changes at the company. Match also owns Tinder, Hinge, and other dating services. Tilray brand shares are higher. The cannabis and beverage company was able to lower its losses in the recent quarter. Boeing shares are under pressure again. United Airlines and Alaska Air say they discovered loose parts on Boeing 737 MAX 9 jets. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosola, invested in you.
8:05, a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka is getting prepped for a fight.
Are you ready for 2024? Are you ready for what the left is going to sling at those who love America? Let's make sure that whatever the crazies, those who hate America, throw at us, that we are ready and we are braced for the onslaught.
America First with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
If you're self-employed and purchase your own health insurance, I have some great news. From now until January 15th, the health insurance exchanges are open again. And even if you've never qualified for a health insurance subsidy before, you most likely will now. The American Rescue Plan expanded subsidy eligibility to millions of Americans who have never qualified before, even to those with high income levels. And this year, you can purchase a multi-state PPO policy, which includes access to Northwestern Medical Group, as well as other teaching hospitals around the nation. Employers who provide small group coverage also have new options, and so do seniors looking for Medicare supplement coverage. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Obamacare, then you need a local expert on your side. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 25-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than 10 years. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551.
Cooler weather is here. Is your vehicle ready for the winter? Remke's Garage, your diesel engine and transmission specialist, can inspect your vehicle so you won't end up on the side of the road. Take it to the experts. Take it to Remke's Garage. The shop at Remke's Garage is equipped with state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment and highly trained technicians. When was the last time you changed your filters, checked your batteries, inspected your tires, belts and hoses, or flushed your coolant? Be prepared. Bring your Mercedes Sprinter, Ford Power Stroke, Dodge Cummins, Chevy Duramax, or Isuzu diesel truck to Remke's Garage and have your tires inspected as well. Ask about the fleet-worthy commercial-grade Toyo Celsius Cargo all-weather tire. The premier tire to accommodate the rainy, icy, snowy, and cold weather we encounter here in the Chicagoland area. Don't get stuck. Remke's Garage is your diesel and Toyo tire headquarters. Visit remkesgarage.com, that's REMKES garage.com, and schedule your inspection today.
At Consumer Cellular, you get the same exact coverage as the largest carriers, but for up to half the cost. Same thing, up to half the cost. Up to half the cost for the same thing. 50% the money for 100% the same thing. I hope I'm making myself clear. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Half the cost savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single-line 5GB data plan with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single-line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plan offered by T-Mobile and Verizon May 2023.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
It's 8:08. Let's get an update on the roads. We do that, of course, in our Team Hochberg Traffic Center, a service of Turnkey.pro. Their team of veteran consultants know how to reduce costs and grow new revenue streams. Turnkey has solutions for your business. Turnkey.pro. That's Turnkey.pro. Kennedy inbound right now jams up between Irving Park and the Burns Circle interchange. 35 and climbing into the circle. Ike on the inbound side, it's an hour from 390 into the old post office, just slow and go. And same story, Stevenson, 49 minutes from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Stevenson outbound, accident right lane blocked involving a semi and a car. It's between the Des Plaines River Bridge and the Tri-State Tollway merge. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. The latest from the QC Kinetics Weather Center and Steve Williams.
A winter weather advisory in effect this morning. Rain and some snow accumulating 1 to 2 inches. A slick commute this morning, high 37. Wet snow tonight, 1 to 3 inches, low 29. Breezy tomorrow morning, cloudy and the high at 31. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
35 at O'Hare. Your next news update, 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. In advance of the impeachment hearing on Ali Mayorkas, he's your Secretary of Homeland Security. He made his way down to Eagle Pass, Texas, following in the footsteps of House Speaker Mike Johnson and that GOP congressional delegation that went last week. And he addressed straight away this silly notion that some people have that DHS is not enforcing federal immigration laws. I don't know where people get this, says Ali Mayorkas.
Some have accused DHS of not enforcing our nation's laws. This could not be further from the truth. Having begun my public service career as a federal prosecutor for 12 years, ultimately serving as the United States Attorney, there is nothing I take more seriously than our responsibility to uphold the law. And the men and women of DHS are working around the clock to do so. We are doing everything we can within a broken system to incentivize non-citizens to use lawful pathways, to impose consequences on those who do not, and to reduce irregular migration.
Irregular migration, please add that to your woke to English dictionary. Irregular migration means illegal immigration.
Right. Or, as I say, an invasion. Yes.
Yeah, irregular migration. I like that. That's very sweet sounding. Interestingly, so you see what Mayorkas did there. First of all, he hides behind the men and women of Border Patrol. To criticize me is to criticize them. I stand with them, using them as political shields. Par for the course. And the issue of enforcing the law, he talked about the record-setting number of people they've turned away at the border and so on and so forth, though he doesn't really address the underlying why is there record-setting number of people at the border. Anyway, despite all that, Bill Malugin over at Fox News reporting the following. Per 3 Border Patrol sources who were in the room while privately meeting with agents in Eagle Pass, and so they're in this room, Mayorkas admitted to them that the current release rate for migrants caught crossing the border illegally is above 85%. So Yeah. Where do people get this idea that Mayorkas and this administration is not serious about 12 million encounters and maybe 2 million gotaways? A number they won't even discuss. Where do they get this notion the law isn't being enforced? For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by Dan Henninger, because this topic will certainly inform some votes on Monday, the Iowa caucus. Dan Henninger is the deputy editor of the Wall Street Journal's editorial page, of course. Dan, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good to be with you, Dan.
So, Mayorkas's fate is part of the conversation. This, again, all against the backdrop of a potential spending deal between House Republicans and Senate Democrats and Senate Republicans, for that matter. What do you think the sensible play here as Biden is clearly flailing as a result of the lawlessness at the border?
Well, the sensible play, I think, Dan, and this would be from Joe Biden's point of view, would be in this supplemental bill, of course, that they're working on over funding for Ukraine, Israel, and that includes restored enforcement at the border, which would slow down the number of people coming across the border. I think that's something Joe Biden should sign on to, for sure. Republicans are pushing for it. I don't think they're going to get House Bill 42 or number 2 into that, but he should really sign on to something like this because his numbers on immigration are so terrible, Dan. And we know that it's creating problems for him across the Democratic Party generally. No one needs to be told what's going on in Chicago or here in New York City or in places like Denver. It's a big political problem for Joe Biden. The flip side of that is represented by Secretary Mayorkas. There are many parts of the Democratic Party that are simply okay with all of these people flowing illegally across the border. And incidentally, I've listened pretty closely to your Mayor Johnson and Mayor Johnson in Denver, and they don't particularly complain about the people coming across the border. Their problem is that there isn't enough federal funding to help them disperse these people.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
So Joe Biden is, on the one hand, worried about his left flank, that he might annoy them if he shut down the border, or at least tighten the border. But more generally, I think with the general voting population, he'd do himself a favor if he got this off the table. But so far, you guys are as well as aware as I am, Biden seems to keep playing to his left, terrified that they're going to desert him in the election in November.
Well, so what do Republicans have to have, in your view, in order to cut any sort of deal on funding? Because obviously there's going to be a contingent of the House Republican caucus that's in the Tom Homan camp and wants to shut down the government until policy changes, significant policy changes like Remain, like asylum applications only if you enter at a designated port of entry and so forth. Those are have-to-haves in order for them to sign on to any spending deal.
I think the biggest thing they need to have, and the one thing they should insist on, is a rollback of what's known as humanitarian parole, right? Humanitarian parole is a euphemism for catch and release. That's what's going on. People come to the border, they make a generalized claim of persecution, and they're let go and sent into the country. If that were reversed, if you simply could not show up and say, I have a problem, and get released and say, I'll come back, 4 or 5 years later for an asylum claim, I think that would significantly slow down the flow of people coming across the border. I mean, I saw a report on CNN last night, Dan, about the extraordinary number of people coming from China.
Yeah.
They're paying $20,000 to get on planes to fly into South America and literally sign up with people, putting them up in Airbnbs and people in places like Honduras, and then they get accompanied up to the border. And for paying even a little more money, they can get a taxi cab to drive them across the border. It's from China. And people are coming now from Africa.
It's 31,000 Chinese in 2023, and most of them are young men, and that causes concern for people.
And they look pretty well educated to me as well. The border is open, and anybody who is upset about their lot anywhere in the world, such as in northern Africa, because they've shut down some of the passageways into Europe, they're now rerouting themselves to the southern border of the United States. And whatever one's views of immigration, and my views of immigration are pretty positive, at least legal immigration, it is clearly falling apart for Joe Biden. And the question is whether he has the strength to address it.
Well, clearly, the Mexican president, AMLO, believes he doesn't, because the proposal that he made, $20 billion for Latin America and the sanctions against Cuba, Venezuela, and 10 million. 10 million give essentially legal status and a right to work to 10 million Latinos that are currently residing in America without those things. And that's for some sort of vague promise of helping old Joe in D.C. I mean, that is a really telling offer by AMLO, it seems to me, what he thinks, where he thinks Joe Biden is on this.
We agree, Dan. I thought that was just bad faith on AMLO's part, virtually amounting to attempting to blackmail the president of the United States. I mean, one of the most fantastic things he said in that negotiation is that he wants the U.S., as part of any agreement by him, to open normalization negotiations with Cuba. I mean, you just had to stand back and say, what is he talking about? Normalization with Cuba? That has nothing to do with what's going on at the southern border.
Yeah, but doesn't it?
Obviously has his own agenda.
Well, but doesn't it also speak to AMLO thinks incredibly, AMLO thinks he has Biden over a barrel when America should have Mexico over a barrel on this.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And the cartels are making hundreds of millions of dollars off of smuggling these people into the United States. That money in some way flows back into the Mexican economy. So the United States is simply going to have to get tougher with Mexico, and one of the ways to do that is to reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy. The problem with that policy, Dan, is that was an order that Donald Trump issued, and the problem with executive orders, as I wrote last week, is they're reversible. Joe Biden reversed many of Trump's orders in the first couple of weeks of his presidency. And what we're eventually going to need is a piece of legislation out of Congress to give that policy like that stronger teeth.
Well, do you think Biden's going to negotiate with the president of Mexico? I mean, he wants $20 billion money to go to Latin America, Caribbean countries. He wants grant work visas to 10 million Hispanics who've worked in the U.S. for at least 10 years. And then, end sanctions against Venezuela and blockage of Cuba.
No, I don't think he's going to negotiate with them. I mean, he might well send Mayorkas down. Obviously, Secretary Mayorkas isn't going to negotiate anything like that. But this is one thing to get onto another subject. This is one of the problems of having a president as weakened as Joe Biden is. The country's foreign affairs cannot solely be run by the Secretary of State. You need a strong president to be able to deal with an AMLO or with Xi Jinping or Vladimir Putin and the rest of the world's leaders. And I watched Joe Biden give that speech in Charleston yesterday at the Black Church, and I thought it was a terrible performance. Halting, muddled, slurring his words. It simply wasn't impressive. And the idea that that guy is going to negotiate a serious border agreement with the president of Mexico is inconceivable.
What about the substance of what he had to say in South Carolina, sort of building off what he said in Valley Forge on Friday, and the characterization essentially that, January 6th, of course, we've heard this before, that an attempt to overthrow the country, overthrow the government and seize control of and install a MAGA dictatorship, and it came within an inch of happening. And then he transitions, says, and that same mob, January 6th mob, which is all Trump voters, they went from January 6th to banning books and doing all these other horrible, preventing people from voting and doing all these other horrible things too. I mean, do you think that sort of scapegoating and that sort of a creative storytelling is going to claw Biden back into this race?
Obviously, that's what they think. They're not, at this point, not going to run on their record. I think that the risk he's running there, Dan, in pushing that argument so far is that it ends up not being just about Trump and also not just about the Trumpians, the tightest supporters of Donald Trump. He runs the risk that people on the outer perimeter of that, who might be, say, sympathetic to Trump's policies when he was president, they begin to think he's talking about them as well, that he's insulting them and dragging them into this indictment of Donald Trump. And so I think Biden does run the risk here of overstating this case against Trump. But, boy, that Valley Forge speech named Trump 44 times. Clearly, this is Exhibit A in the Trump reelection campaign.
If Trump wins the Iowa caucus on Monday by, something approximating where the polls had it going into Christmas, 30 points, 25 points, 30 points. I mean, is the race over?
We'll have to wait, I think, for New Hampshire at least to see whether the race is over. It kind of looks effectively over. Trump is in the news. He's going to be in the news today with this appearance before the appeals court in Washington over his immunity claim. And it just kind of sucks the oxygen out of the Republican primaries. This is what people are reading and thinking about. And I think it probably is going to add up to a Trump victory in these early primaries. But we've been talking about polls all this time, Dan. We got to see some real voters show up and express their opinion. So I'm willing to wait at least through New Hampshire to see which way the wind is blowing with Republican voters.
He is Dan Henninger, deputy editor of the Wall Street Journal's editorial page. Dan, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Good to talk to you guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Would you go to court without a lawyer when the other guy is lawyered up? Or are you going to go it alone and learn law and procedure as you go? When you have an insurance claim for your home or business, it's the same thing.
This is Dan Lights from Crosscom. We inspect your property, file your claim, negotiate the damages, and maximize your settlement with your insurance company.
Insurance companies will send out their inspectors that work for them, get paid by them, and represent them. Not you.
If we complete the repairs approved by your insurance company, our service is free. Crosscom Public Adjusters has turned denied claims into approved claims. We've also increased insurance claims anywhere from 23 to 1,000%, and we could do the same for you. We are licensed by the Department of Insurance and work in Illinois, Northwest Indiana, and Southern Wisconsin. Crosscom Public Adjusters, 630-871-5500. Online at crosscominc.com. That's crosscominc.com. Crosscom, building trust for over 20 years.
True story. I know a couple who almost got divorced because he got his knee replaced and he had to take off time from work, use vacation time. His wife had to become his caretaker. And that didn't work out well because not all people are meant to be nurses. So why go under the knife when you could try alternatives like QC Kinetics? Don't go another year compromising because of the pain in your knees or your shoulders or your hip. Call QC Kinetics now. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative, non-surgical pain relief. Your body has what it needs to restore and repair that damaged joint tissue. And QC Kinetics can make it happen. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. The future of pain treatment has arrived. Hundreds of board-certified QC Kinetic providers have treated tens of thousands of satisfied patients all over America, people with back pain, hip pain, any pain associated with arthritis or an injury. This is not a Band-Aid, folks. This is a revolutionary treatment that can get you moving again. So get your life back and listen, It's non-surgical. If this is a year you've decided to fight back against pain, then take the first step and call QC Kinetics now. Get a free consultation on the calendar today. The number to call is 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
Support our police and hire the police to personally protect you. You've watched the news. Rising crime has been affecting our everyday lives in Illinois more and more these days. Blue Star Security can protect you, your business, or your place of worship. Blue Star Security is the only security company in Chicago with over 900 off-duty police officers, all W-2 employees.
I'm Anthony Barchetto, president of Blue Star Security and a 20-year law enforcement veteran. The Blue Star team is made up of over 900 state-certified active and retired law enforcement professionals. We serve businesses and private organizations with supply chain and special event security, and also protect our loved ones at places of worship and schools all across the Chicagoland area. Blue Star Security's technology allows mobilization of off-duty officers quickly and efficiently. Our primary mission is to provide unparalleled protective services for each assignment with integrity, while maintaining our commitment to community service in the Chicagoland area.
Visit online to schedule a free security consultation at bluestarsecuриtyllc.com. That's bluestarsecuриtyllc.com.
Looking for a winter destination to keep your golf skills sharp? Look no further than the Golf Factory, located in Mount Prospect in the Randhurst Mall. With 10 TrackMan golf simulators, a full bar with a handcrafted food menu to enjoy while you play, you'll find a complete indoor golf experience at the Golf Factory in Mount Prospect. Come and enjoy state-of-the-art simulators that use the most popular launch monitor on the PGA Tour, providing the most realistic indoor golf experience possible. Looking to practice? These simulators read 27 data points to help you fix your swing. Want to play? You'll find nearly 300 real-world golf courses and add 4 new courses each month. Would you like to compete with your friends or make new ones? Leagues and monthly competitions are now available. Looking to entertain? Groups of 75 can be accommodated at the Golf Factory in Mount Prospect. See for yourself why the Golf Factory in Mount Prospect is Chicagoland's premier destination for indoor golf. Visit online today at golffactory.golf. That's golffactory.golf.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
We'll talk a little bit about LaGrange's very own national champion, J.J. McCarthy, and the context of COVID, because the NPR Times state-run media says it's time to mask up again in Chicago. 8:38.
And who's going to go to the NFL first? Jim Harbaugh or J.J. McCarthy? But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott. Busy man today, huh?
8:31, and you're right, snow falling, and right now traffic is tied up on several major expressways. We'll get to that in just a moment. First, Republican Congressman Matt Rosendale of Montana is launching plans to introduce one or more articles of impeachment for high crimes and misdemeanors against Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin today. GOP presidential candidate Nikki Haley said yes to that idea during a Fox News town hall on Monday.
I think Biden should be fired. This is unbelievable that we have a situation like this.
It comes as Austin is facing criticism over his lack of transparency when his hospitalization went unreported. Senior defense officials in the White House were not made aware of that situation. Fort Worth, Texas Fire Department investigating the cause of an explosion at a historic downtown hotel on Monday that injured 21. Fire Department spokesman Craig Trajic says the cause is under investigation, but may have been a gas leak.
We have been working in collaboration with the ATF, the FBI, with our arson and bomb division as well.
Some victims were trapped in the basement of that hotel after the explosion. A winter storm hitting the Chicago area. 3 to 6 inches of snow has fallen across the area. Hazardous conditions continue, and several schools already closed. Colleges as well, with e-learning implemented at some. Check your local school website or your phone for reminds. A woman is pleading guilty to killing a pregnant Chicago teen in 2019 and stealing the baby from her womb. Desiree Figueroa and her mother Clarissa are accused of strangling 19-year-old Marlon Ochoa Lopez and cutting her baby boy from the girl after luring her to their Southwest Side home to exchange baby clothes. A Wilmette man is facing child pornography charges. Cook County Sheriff's Office says investigators found Owen Taylor reportedly was in possession of multiple photos and videos of child pornography. And a national teaching organization says the state of Illinois needs to improve policies to promote better reading instruction. The National Council on Teacher Quality president is Heather Pesky and says Illinois has a weak reading rating.
Illinois doesn't require districts to select and use a high-quality reading curriculum. So that means that districts are on their own to choose what they'd like to use. And that means a lot of times districts in Illinois could be using curriculum that's not aligned with the research and that simply isn't as effective in teaching kids to read.
The report also says Illinois does not provide adequate professional learning for teachers on the latest science of reading. Michigan Wolverines are the college football playoff national champions, crushing Washington 34-13. The Bulls winners last night, 119-112 in overtime over the Hornets in Charlotte. The news service of Salem Surround. Go to surroundchicago.com today. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Make sure that you never miss a day of Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson when you subscribe to the Chicago's Morning Answer podcast, presented by Signature Bank. Listen to the entire show each day on demand with limited commercial breaks. You can subscribe today for free at 560theanswer.com and click on podcasts or search for Chicago's Morning Answer on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hi, my name is Ryan Bourne.
And I'm Danica Bourne.
And we're the owners of South Coast Tax.
We started our company 10 years ago in an effort to help our fellow Christians experiencing tax issues resolve their matters by taking a simple 3-step approach.
South Coast Tax are Christian-based tax accountants and attorneys that specialize in releasing bank levies, wage garnishments, and filing complex tax returns. We are the leaders in acceptance of offers and compromise with awesome results. We're also a small firm who will treat you like family, not just a number.
Call us today at 1-800-TAX-1176 for a free consultation, and we'll take the time to explain all of the programs that you qualify for in order to allow you a fresh start.
Proverbs 15:22 says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed." Call us today at 1-800-TAX-1176, and together we can help achieve this goal by putting the IRS debt behind you for good. Again, that number is 1-800-TAX-1176.
My brother was here with his wife, and I said, listen, take the rest of these 2 bottles. And my brother's like, well, and I said, no, there's nothing to think about. Just get it, order it, get it on auto ship. And in the first couple months, you may not thank me and go, I don't feel anything. But I said, but about that 3rd month, it starts kicking in. I mean, I'm singing, I'm doing dishes. I love it. Absolutely love, love, love it.
Step into the new year with a new you. Start your journey to better health by going to balanceofnature.com and signing up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
The words you are about to hear are taken from letters sent in by members of the Trinity Debt Management Program.
Dear Trinity, today I'm making my final credit card payment.
Before I came to you, I was in a constant state of anxiety and panic, but now there is hope for my family's financial future.
Working with Trinity made me understand that I'm not alone.
You really do help people.
Your kindness will never be forgotten. Without Trinity's support, I would not have achieved my lifelong goal of becoming debt-free.
We save saved a lot on interest and penalties, of course, but the reward was the gift of human kindness.
Trinity has carried me through a very difficult time in my life. You're amazing.
I used to feel so anxious and hopeless. Now I feel grace and peace.
God bless Trinity as you continue to help others become debt-free.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976. That's 1-800-990-6976.
It's 8:38. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of Discover. If you like using debit over credit, shouldn't you also get rewarded? Well, now you can with Discover Cashback Debit. No fees. Check out eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC. On the south side of Chicago, 105th at Avenue L. Level 1 hazardous material situation reported for high levels of carbon monoxide. Large fire department response there. Wheaton, Naperville Road, and Roosevelt Road report of an accident there. 8094, an accident just pulled out of your way westbound at Calumet. And on the Jane Addams, they've just cleared a disabled vehicle eastbound at Higgins Road. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. The latest from the QC Kinetics Weather Center. Mix of rain and snow through the midday. We'll have an additional 1 to 2 inches out in the northwest suburbs and a high near 37. More snow with some dangerous and slippery travel tonight, a low of 28. Light snow and 34 officially at O'Hare. Your next news update at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. All hail Michigan, I guess.
I know, it's hard, but it makes the Big Ten look good.
Michigan dominating Washington yesterday and winning a national title, first since 1997 for the Wolverines. And, of course, as is well known now, J.J. McCarthy hails from LaGrange. He was at Nazareth High School before the COVID lockdowns. The COVID lockdown sent J.J. McCarthy to IMG in Bradenton, Florida, because he wanted to play football in high school and continue on to play football in college at the University of Michigan. So he left Illinois, as some athletes that were fortunate were able to do, to play sports in other states. I remember we talked to
father. Remember whose son
father
played,
moved to Indiana.
Yep, moved him in, and then he went on to play at the collegiate level as well. So a lot of families made sacrifices so that their kids could have a future in sports.
Yeah, and obviously a lot were unable to. But yeah, the J.J. McCarthy really drives it home to remind people exactly what happened for the better part of 2 years, at whose hands it happened, and what was lost based on just looking at what J.J. McCarthy gained.
I mean, we didn't have a 2020 fall season. It got pushed back to 2021. Remember, I'm going to remind people. And you normally have 6 or 7 football games a year. Well, they only were able to schedule 3 or 4, but then somebody, undoubtedly, because you have a team that large, would have COVID, and they shut down the programs. The games weren't rescheduled. There was no CPS playoffs. There were no state playoffs because, God forbid, if something happened outside. I mean, the whole system was so messed up. And when you look at the map of all the states around us and all the states around them, they all had fall sports in 2020, full seasons, playoffs, city playoffs, state playoffs. It's sick.
Well,
and it still makes me mad what we did to our children.
That's
what
that's
he did.
That's what we did. I'll tell you something else about that game last night too. We should thank Michigan for exposing Michael Penix, who I had high hopes for. Actually, I had Washington last night.
You did?
And he was, and I mean, it's such a great story too. This guy, he's had like three would-be career-ending injuries, and he kept coming back, moving from Indiana to Washington, and he looked so good all year, but he didn't look good last night. So now keep Justin Fields. I don't trust Caleb Williams. Trade that number 1 pick for more first-round picks and get some linemen and receivers. Okay, so thank you, Michael Penix.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro. Answer line 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment. Wasn't it the 5-point spread? But the game was what, 34?
4.5.
4.5.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
What was the final score, Dan? How much
34-13.
money did you lose?
All the proceeds go to charity.
Oh, right.
So
they're going to fix the roads and fund the schools. But here, real quick, here's J.J. McCarthy celebrating, giving a shout-out to his hometown, LaGrange Park, Illinois.
You have visualized this moment every single day for the last year. How does reality compare?
It's glorious. That's all I can say. I just love my teammates so much. I love my coaches. It's bittersweet because this is going to be the last time we get to play together. I love those guys so much. It's just such a special group. And no better way to end it. No better way.
You had a big moment in this game. Your back's against the wall in the fourth quarter, and you pull off the longest run of your season. How did you keep that drive alive and gain the distance to win?
Just all film study. They just give it up on third downs, and I had to take advantage of it at some time. And, offensive line did a great job of holding up so they couldn't shed on their blocks, and, the rest was history.
Coach has called you the greatest college quarterback to ever play at Michigan. What do you think you are?
I think I'm J.J. McCarthy, kid from LaGrange Park, Illinois, that's just trying to be the best he could possibly be every day. That's all I think of myself as.
How about you add national champion to that?
Say that one more time.
National champ?
Yeah, we'll take that. That's for sure.
All right, thank you so much.
Take that, Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Yeah, who else? Take that, Jim Harbaugh. Take that, Elvis Gerbach.
Is he the greatest quarterback at Michigan of all time? I don't know. I don't study Michigan quarterbacks. I went to Iowa.
Maybe.
Like Chuck Hartwig or Chuck Long.
Chuck, yeah, right. Well, right. But,
yeah, because
I don't know, 15-0. There's a case to be made at the collegiate level. Obviously Brady at the pro level is a different story. But anyway, nice kid. I'm happy for him. He's got his high school girlfriend, or the girlfriend he met in high school is there, and the whole thing. It's all very, very Norman Rockwellian yesterday. So even though it cost me a few shekels, I'm okay with it.
I can't believe you didn't. Because he originally went to the high school that your mother graduated from.
Correct.
What is it, Nazarene?
Nazareth.
Speak Catholic for me, Dan.
Yeah, Nazareth. Yeah. Yeah. I did want to talk a little bit about COVID on this because I just wanted to alert people that your bettors over at the NPR Times, state-funded, state-run media, they picked up on what happened in St. Louis, which is a whole other story. This is great.
This is awesome.
At the end of last week. But here's the editorial from the Reds over at the NPR Times. No expiration date on the importance of masking up. Unfortunately, there will never be a shortage of unmasked crusaders. The unmasked are the crusaders, sure. Championed by the many Americans who would rather get others sick than take a simple measure to keep them safe. They will never stop repeating this. There's nothing you can do to make them stop repeating things that aren't true. No one wants to relive 2020, and it's clear the U.S. will never emulate the Asian countries whose citizens have been wearing masks for decades, whether to keep from breathing in pollution or sneezing on strangers. But cases of COVID, influenza, RSV rise here, and across the country. It's not a big ask. Mask up when possible. Come on.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro. Answer line 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment.
One more time for the
Masks don't work.
One more time for the good of the order. Mask up when possible. Hey,
Dan, is it just for 2 weeks?
It's always possible.
Are they asking just for 2 weeks?
It's always possible. No.
Just to stop the spread, just for a few weeks. Do your part, Dan. Step up.
John Segretti, who's a epidemiologist with Rush Medical Center, said people seem to think COVID is gone, and it's not. No, I don't think people think COVID is gone. I don't think people think the flu is gone. I don't think people think RSV is gone. I think they have, most people, not all, the COVIDians have not, but I think most people have just calibrated the risk. One of the things that all the professionals that were part of the COVIDian mob refused to do themselves or give quarter to anybody else who did, to rationally calculate the risks and respond proportionate to the risks, Right. That's what people are doing. Wearing a mask probably won't become mandatory in most public spaces anytime soon. Doesn't mean we shouldn't keep one handy. Don't let masking up slip away completely. Just do it to keep alive the memories of when we all were forced to wear masks for no particular reason. Hey, throw on a mask. It doesn't do anything. I mean, they're almost saying it doesn't do anything. So mask here, don't mask there, mask when it's possible. It's always possible. When should you mask? When should you not? They don't say.
No.
Because they know.
Hospitals here have mask mandates now.
You're supposed to, you got to keep up appearances. You got to justify the support. You got to justify what the COVIDians imposed to their supporters. And again, of course, demonize anybody who would offer nary a question as COVID deniers. Then there's that word again, deniers.
I heard someone on Sunday, I have half my congregation's now masked up again. It's so frustrating. Say, well, masks didn't, we ready for this? This is their line of argument. Masks didn't work because not everybody was wearing them.
Exactly. Of course.
Isn't that great? It's
same thing
so
with the
Chicago.
Same thing with the vaccines.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't work because not everybody got one. Okay. Sure. Go with it.
But I love on Friday.
Whatever you come up with.
That St. Louis health director decided to reimpose mask mandates.
So this St. Louis health director, this is awesome. Her name is Matafadza Latshawayo Davis.
And this is why you said her name and not me.
It's funny, too. It's interesting because I had my first car out of college was a Matafadza 929.
And I had Lawaja for dinner last night.
It had about 25,000 miles on it. I really liked it. The Matafadza, I think it was a 93
V6 engine. Yeah, I remember it well.
Matafadza. No, it was a V8. I think it was a V8. I think it was a V8 back then, but then they discontinued that Matafadza 929. That was too bad.
So what did Matafadza vroom vroom say?
Significant increases in COVID-19 RSV, mask mandate.
Starting January 5th. She gave a specific day.
But then here's the backstory. Somebody tweeted out the backstory. This is really good. That the thread is better than the news coverage. Of course, St. Louis media, right? What's the difference? Chicago media, D.C. media, it's all the same. So she on Thursday, she just issues this citywide mask mandate by herself. I mean, she doesn't consult. She doesn't consult the mayor.
No.
Okay, so she does this. This is great. No warning. Mayor, regional heads of the hospital, nobody knew. It was so irregular, some people thought that the order was a prank, but it was real.
Oh, really?
She said, the Matafadza 929 said that her reason for issuing the mandate was to reduce the strain on the hospital system, which she said was foundering under a surge of respiratory illness. So it wasn't just COVID only, but to flu and RSV as well. She said case increases of 50 to 150% above the 5-year average, which, of course, freaked people out.
I'm freaked out. I don't even live there.
But then people who are competent notice something. And this is supposed to be an infectious disease physician and expert. The hospitals made a statement, we're not overwhelmed. So far, it's a normal winter.
Oh my God.
She hadn't bothered to talk to them. She simply used the shortage of ICU beds copy-paste from 3 years ago.
No, she didn't.
And her analysis, the 5-year average includes an anomaly, the winter of 2020-21, lowest for flu in the modern history of records. Every normal year will be above the 5-year average until it excretes that anomaly. And that mistake could have been avoided, too, if she had bumped up this rash action against anybody, but she didn't. So, so she just avoided talking to anybody. She did this. It was based on a completely fallacious analysis. So the mayor rescinded it. They let her save face by issuing an update that strongly recommends the masking. I mean, the most important thing is to protect the legitimacy of your city public health director, right? I mean,
would never be able to trust her ever again. She should lose her job for that.
This is
That's fear mongering. Okay, Dan.
Well, it's a combination of being an ideologue and an incompetent. It's a terrible combination. We got a lot of them. Mary Kay, Western Springs, on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning, gosh. St. Louis story, that's bad. Anyway, Nazareth Academy has a great reputation for having the best sports coaching staff out here in the western suburbs. Did you know that, Dan, that people send their kids to Nazareth who are good athletes to give them a better chance to get into, good college scholarships? Anyway, there was another kid who did graduate from LP who during the lockdowns, he had to go down to train with the Florida Marlins because he couldn't train up here. The rules were what they were. There was no baseball up here. And that kid's name is Michael Walsh. He ended up going to Yale, and he is in the MLB. I just think the interesting stories of how these kids, what they had to do to become successful athletes that made it all the way, and I think it's wonderful that these kids did it, and interesting stories, for the future.
Well, J.J. McCarthy,
Cool.
I mean, it was a big
call,
family
Mary Kay.
decision, and he was depressed when he first got there because you think he didn't want to leave his team, he didn't want to leave his coach.
Yeah, and he does the
And then you gotta start
meditations
all
now,
over?
now he does the meditations on the field. That was his way of coping
Yeah.
when he was depressed. Well, it's fine. All right.
I mean, he still got to do what he loved, but I mean, at that age, that's a big change.
And now he's a national champion. Good for him, Mr. Big Shot. Now, fine.
Hey, he seems humble.
No, he does.
For now, yes,
he does.
no, he should be.
does.
Yeah, he will.
Bob in Paloma, Michigan.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. Now, since they've decided that CO2 is a pollutant, why would we want to put a mask on our face and breathe more of that pollutant?
Thanks for the call.
Thanks.
Bob. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers.